Hey everybody, Madeleine here to look at the astrology for October 2025. And we have a wonderful, beautiful big water trine coming up around the 20th. And this is going to be a trine between the planets Saturn at 25 degrees of Pisces, Mars, Mercury in Scorpio, 25-ish, 26 degrees Scorpio, and then Jupiter, 25, 26 degrees of Cancer. So big water trines bring these beautiful results, especially when it involves Saturn and Jupiter, the results of some sort of hard struggle. And it most likely is connected to whatever we went through during the Saturn Jupiter squares that lasted a good month or so in the last couple of years. We've been experiencing a Jupiter Saturn square. And that Jupiter Saturn square has been pushing us to restructure our lives, dissolve old karmas, end old karmas. It would have brought up and expanded some sort of crisis in our life that needed deconstructing in our lives, and sort of clearing the path, and being disciplined about a new direction that we're heading in, and developing a new structure, disciplined, um, shall we say, focus on a dharma. And if we've been off path on that Dharma, that Saturn Jupiter square would have sort of brought up, shall we say, the results of being in the wrong direction, unsupported by the universe. So now we're going to have this beautiful Saturn Jupiter trine for the most of the month, building from around the 10th. You can feel the energy starting to get more and more positive when you get these big outer planets making outer personal planets. I mean, not the personal planets are considered to be Mars, Mercury, Venus. So Jupiter, Saturn has this big dominant impact in our lives. They're very slow moving and they really create a force of sort of regroove in our life. It regrooves us. So this beautiful big water trine with the Saturn Jupiter trine is going to bring us the results of that struggle and that we've been on. And it would, so if you want to go back and get clarity on that, just go back and see when Jupiter and Saturn were squaring. And I'll put those dates in the description here below. And it may resonate with what's starting to look really good for us or you in your personal life right now. And also in the collective, this is a positive energy in general for real estate, for long-term contracts and new governmental structures that are starting to sort of form that are more in alignment with where humanity is going right now. But really, I like to focus on the personal lives. And in our personal lives, we're going to feel some sort of universal support in a new structure that we're initiating, or this new direction we're heading, that we were, as a result of dissolving some old structure. So we're seeing some sort of blessed results of our efforts that we almost didn't know we were going to get. It's a sort of a support feeling that is rare in astrology. These are rare transits. So we want to take advantage of them and take us and sort of enthusiastically, shall we say, co-collaborate with this energy and have faith in this new direction that we're heading. Now, I already talked about how Chiron is squaring Jupiter during this month, which is going to be sort of blessed by this trine, because Jupiter trine Saturn is saying, look, don't worry about it. Things are going to be okay for the long time. Saturn involved means it's long term. And we are initiating new 29-year Saturn cycles here. When Saturn gets back into Aries in February, it's going to be moving very quickly. It's go time. We're on our new path. We're seeing the shape of it. We can see what it looks like. We can see where it's going clearer. Because right now we're still in sort of limbo land. Now, some people are contacting me saying they're having some really hard times financially. If anyone is experiencing that, it really is the universe trying to nudge you more towards your dharmic path, where your universal support was designed for you to find, basically. So these are times where we can't really walk on a sort of ego idea of where we're supposed to be. We have to really connect with our dharma. Then we're really tapping into this sort of abundant economic boost, which really the energy is there for 100% with a Saturn trine Jupiter. It's a long-term structural, shall we say, benefic of abundance. And it is a spiritual energy. So we're looking at flowing into it, being connected to your intuitive, being psychically open, psychically aware. It's something we all want to develop right now because it really helps us feeling connected and and on path. It's how we align. Knowing divine will, developing spiritual practices during this water trine, and being really calm and introspective, and because Saturn is in retrograde, which is really kind of ruling this trine. And it is asking us to really find our heart, find our soul's desire, our spiritual calling, our dharma. So, you want to, if you're seeking that alignment, you're going to find a lot of universal support because in about 4 to 5 years from now, the job market as we know it is no longer going to be as it is today. It's going to be completely different. We're going to be walking the path of the Aquarius, which is the independent person living their chart, knowing who they are and walking in their true path of abundant destiny, following their purpose, their intended reason of creation. So I'm going to go ahead and share the chart to show you this water trine. And it is, let's get it opened here. All right, here it is. Here we are at September 9th today. So I'm going to go ahead and go up to show you that here in October, first of all, the month in October begins with some tension with Mercury squaring Chiron Jupiter. So there is going to be some intense conversations that could trigger our insecurities, people criticizing us, um, or triggering our insecurities, causing us to be defensive or something. But that is Mercury. Let's get to the beginning of the month. That's October 1. There is Mercury making a square to Jupiter, and Jupiter is forming a square to Chiron, which it's not showing here. There it is, October 2nd. So the month starts out with some sort of confrontation, triggering woundings. Sorry, Mercury is not in Virgo, Mercury is in Libra. So there is a relationship triggering intensity, communication around clashes in beliefs, or sort of communications opening up, revealing the sources of why we had woundings or why we had fears that weren't enabling us to believe in ourselves. But this is going to play out in a variety of different ways depending on your charts. I'm going to go into that for all the 12 signs, which I'm going to add to the end of this clip. I'll go into each 12 sign for some of these major transits. So anyway, so that does bring some intensity. And then we're going to have this full moon in Aries coming in at 14 degrees, right as Mercury goes into the sign of Scorpio, squaring Pluto. And Mars is also in Scorpio. So we've got a lot of Scorpio, Pluto confrontations, ending power struggles, shall we say, perhaps worst case scenario, if you're in a relationship that has a tendency to be violent, you want to create space. I mean, this is a volatile energy on a full moon. Things are energized and riled up and intense. So this is an intense full moon. It's ruled by Mars. Mars is in Scorpio. So I'm going to go more deep into this full moon in other posts later on. So look out for that. And so moving along, we're going to go, my main focus of this video is the water trine. And after this full moon, we're going to start building that water trine. And Venus does oppose Saturn too here in the October 10th, which will bring so Venus was conjoined Saturn January. So we're going to see some sort of there's a journey going on with Venus and Saturn ever since the eclipses in Libra, because Saturn has been in the story. So there's some sort of long-term either money or relationship dance happening with Venus Saturn. Okay, so that dance, then you would have remembered it in early January, right? Probably around January 1st. Actually, no, it was right, January 20th, I think, Venus Saturn. So we're going to see some sort of step forward or some sort of confrontation in that situation around commitment and, shall we say, clashes of beliefs. Some sort of dance going on, which I'll go into more detail again further down the line, because I can get very distracted and get too overwhelmed with all the information. So I try to stay focused. All right. So we're talking mostly focusing in this reading on the grand water trine because that is the most, shall we say, dominant transit that is going to impact and tilt our destiny of transits in this month. So that is the most, shall we say, long-term um, shifting transit. Okay, so here we are after this full moon. Does anything happen around the 10th or 11th? I thought there was. Yeah, the Venus opposite. Oh, yeah, we do have this beautiful sextile between Jupiter, Venus. Okay, I got to get onto that. That happens here on the 23rd, 24th. Sorry, October 8th, after this full moon. So what, and that is before Venus builds its opposition with Saturn. So there is some sort of beautiful flow, some sort of reckoning, some sort of ease of expansion in a romantic or financial situation or both, building to an opposition to Saturn, which potentially could be the clearing of an opposition between the two forces here or between relationships and law. In other words, a a breakthrough in an opposing energy between the two forces. Like if you're having an argument with your spouse and it's been an issue about what to commit to, what to buy, say you wanted to buy property, they don't want to buy. So now at this opposition, we're really facing this opposition. And with that Venus sextiling Jupiter, it looks like there's a result that flows, that changes or that shifts that block. And so something goes through or it gets wiped off the table. I hope that makes sense. All right, I'll go more into detail about that because that's interesting because Venus and Saturn, I'm going to do a whole post on that, has been doing a very interesting dance because I've been watching it, especially during these eclipses. All right, so here we are moving on from this opposition. We're going to start seeing this beautiful building of the Saturn-Jupiter trine. Don't forget, Venus does move. Oh, just a step back here. Venus, again, getting back on the Venus subject. Venus is going to move into Libra, by the way, which is beautiful because in the backdrop of this water trine, we've got Venus and Libra coming in on the 14th. Venus Libra is beautiful energies. It really blesses and it actually creates this kite formation with the moon there, but also it's creating, if forget the moon, actually it's tapping into this beautiful kite with Neptune. It's involving the new destiny, there's blessings here, blessing our new chapter and the new era that's about to initiate when Saturn goes into Aries again in February, which will be the official launch of the new era, in my opinion. So Venus will come in and make a beautiful air trine right as it shifts here, which is very positive expansion of intellectual information. And this is a good stock market energy, just so you know. Finance is liberating people. This is beautiful. Again, I want to go more into detail in another post on that. But this looks like a great month, in my opinion. All right. So now we're going to hit the Jupiter is coming in now. Where are we? At 23 degrees. We're hitting a trine to Saturn on the 15th. So, I mean, hello. We've got Venus in its beautiful sign, Mars in its own sign in dignity, Venus in dignity, Jupiter in dignity. What else? Mercury, Scorpio. It's neither here nor there. Saturn Pisces is doing what it's got to do right now, which is dissolve our karma, go back and really make sure we've grown and we've matured around some sort of method of way of being in our lives that creates results we don't like. And we're really having to work hard on that. But that Jupiter trining it is going to help us and give us the blessings. And we're squaring that Chiron, giving us the confidence to bust through some of these insecurities and step into our beautiful dharmic path that we have been working on when Jupiter and Saturn were squaring. Try not to get too excited about this month. But anyway, as we get going, we're going to hit this beautiful water trine of Mars, Mercury, Jupiter, Saturn. Look on your own personal charts. Again, I'm going to go through this for all 12 signs, but I mean, yes, hallelujah. We're seeing blessings from the angels. And also this trine's going to build too as it hits Neptune. By the way, Neptune goes into Pisces again. Interesting. It's in its own sign. Again, very watery energies here, guys. Very watery. The sun is in its fall. I should mention the sun in Libra is weak, but boy, all these other planets are creating, shall we say, a force of light that offsets that. And blessings, angels. These are angels coming in and helping us out and giving us the rewards of our efforts. Humanity is getting a big boost of love here and gifts and abundance. And I mean, I'm just having so much fun with this. So let's take a look. I'm just going to look at my notes, make sure. Oh, so Venus, by the way, is, when Venus tips in there, it does make a beautiful kite. So I will look at that for all the 12 signs. Um, What else should I look at? Yeah, that's basically it for this month. We do have a new moon Libra. The new moon Libra is going to be, when is the new moon Libra hitting? The new moon Libra is on the 20th. Is it the 20th? So yeah, the 20th here, new moon Libra, right at 27 degrees. What do I have here? 27 degrees. New moon Libra, 27 degrees, ruled by Venus in its dignity, not exaltation. Libra is exalted in Pisces, but it's in its home sign of domicile, which makes it in its very comfortable situation, very good energies, beautiful new beginnings with a very nice dignified Venus with Saturn continuing the sextile to Jupiter, means these are long-term, abundant new beginnings. I am ruled by Jupiter. So excuse me if I'm being over optimistic, but this looks really great. All right, everybody. Hang in there through that first week. And now I will go into all the 12 signs. All right. All right, Aries. This month is going to be good for you guys because your ruling planet is Mars and it will be in the sign of Scorpio. And Mars in Scorpio is dignified, has a lot of energy. It can be emotionally volatile. There can be conflicts depending on how Mars is aspecting your chart and some of your planets. But on the whole, it is in a dignified place and it is a strong Mars backing your actions, your decisions, your choices. And it is also a more intuitive Mars. So you are connecting more with intuitive emotional truths, as it were. Now, the beginning of the month starts off with this square, a big T square with Mercury, Chiron, and Jupiter. So these are intense transactions, communications. Again, Chiron in Aries is in your own chart. If you're looking at your sun, it's in the house that your sun is in. If it's your ascendant, it's in your first house. So you're really learning to become more confident, believe in yourself, dealing with insecurities. So with that Mercury squaring Jupiter, it's kind of forcing you to open up, communicate, and it is in a relationship axis. So it's going to be in your seventh house, Mercury. So you're opening up and facing insecurities and fears around relationships or confronting issues in relationships in order to sort of get over or get through a block. Perhaps you have a joint soul contract with someone, so you have to get over some sort of conflict or some sort of insecure barrier or belief or wounding that is stopping you from finding an agreeable position in something. I'm going to go more into that transit in my other posts later in the month. All right, now we're going to move on to, you've got a full moon in your house at 14 degrees there. 14 degrees full moon. Let's get the moon there. This is an intense full moon because it is going to have your ruling planet in Mars. But it is, shall we say, let me get rid of these things for a minute. Your ruling planet being in Mars, it is an intense full moon. So you're going to be feeling this full moon. It's in your first house. So some sort of truer, more authentic version of yourself and your emotional honesty comes kind of coming through because Mercury is squaring Pluto. So this is a breakthrough for Aries where you become more honest. You're coming from an emotional center rather than an ego center, intuitive, taking on these fears, perhaps conflicts in relationships, but really the energy of this full moon is ultimately extremely abundant, and it really is going to help you break through any ego barriers that are preventing you from opening up to a relationship. There's a lot of ways we could look at that. If you're not in a committed relationship, this would could be a very much a relationship coming into existence, seeing the truth and the authenticity, or the, shall we say, the realness of a connection, or the opposite, you see that it's not real and you end a relationship. Very, very possible with Mars in your sign, Mercury scaring Pluto. So there's a good chance you're ending karmic relationships that are not part of your soul destiny or your soul contracted purpose. And that's what that full moon is going to activate in your chart. Plus, we have a new moon in your seventh house at the end of the month, I think on the 20th, which again puts you in a new beginning in a contracted situation, marriage, partnership, or other forms of partnership agreements. You can sign a rent agreement on a full moon in your seventh house. That's a contract, okay? So, lots going on for you guys, your cardinal signs. So, this is a cardinal month, and you're going to be feeling a lot of shifts and changes when with that full moon and new moon in both yourself and your others' house, what do you call it? Polarity. So that's the beginning of the month there. Now we're going to get to the Venus, your seventh house ruling planet is going to be opposing Saturn, and Saturn is about to come back into your first house. So there's definitely some strong relationship, sort of, you could say coming to Jesus, or some sort of strong relationship, Venus, Saturn, new, because Saturn wants to align you with the right long-term connections and projects. See, Venus is in Virgo, so we're looking at a service-oriented coming together for a long-term service-oriented, destined, dharmic, soul contracted project. It could just be with your wife if you're married, and you guys decide to travel and to be of service in some way, taking on some kind of a project that you find to be useful and helpful to others, practical, Virgo. So I won't get too much more on that. A lot more to say on that, but I'm just going to keep moving because Venus and Saturn have a lot to talk about. Have had a lot of interactions in the last couple years. So there's a story playing out in our lives between Venus and Saturn. Now, October 18th, we're starting to build the big water trine with Saturn and Jupiter. And that is going to be in your 12th and 4th. Wow. So you could either be deciding to move, change to a different country, move home. A property, real estate could sell, bringing you a lot of money, liberating you to travel or to move country. Um, you could beginning a new relationship because of that new moon in your seventh. And so now you move into a house with someone, or you move and live together with someone. And then if it's making a trine to that Saturn, you've really cleared a karmic knot in your connections. We've got that beautiful trine to Mercury and Mars in your eighth house, some sort of beautiful financial abundant support. Maybe you're buying a house together, you're bringing your resources together. Maybe you can upgrade a house because you're getting in a relationship so you can afford more rent, or you travel together. But the blessings that come are from the hard work that you would have been doing with Saturn in your 12th house, clearing karmic cycles and karmic patterns of having conflicts in your connections because it was joining Neptune. And you're really clearing, I mean, you of all the signs are really untangling a massive karmic knot here that has an overall impact in your whole life. All our karmic knots do, but some of them are more specifically related to relationships or money or something. But when you have that Pisces in your 12th, you're really, it's shall we say, a cosmic or subconscious or total life experience restart, because you would have been operating in a sort of totalitarian way, perhaps from very strong ego and making choices from ego rather than the intuitive or guided or spiritually guided center. And so now that's really changing for the Aries, and they're really stepping into a destiny that fulfills them on the inside, and so that enables them to make choices that are aligning more with what they truly desire on the inside. So when Saturn goes back into your first house in February, it's go time. So we are in this water trine. there would have been some structuring involved with your Saturn and Jupiter when was also in your third house. So because those squares have been happening, we had Jupiter Saturn squares in the last couple of years, and Jupiter would have been in your third house, also as well as it was squaring in your fourth house, where you're dissolving and ending old ideas, old perceptions, breaking through information that isn't true, and old family karmic cycles that are sort of the source of some of these misperceptions, or ending your karmic family lineage, wounding and healing that for your for the new era. So yeah, so now I go, so the blessings that come could be through real estate property, through loans, investments, or investments coming into a big upgrade, a big boost. Find house property goes in value, up in value. You could rent a property, get a good value for it. Um, a loan, a debt is deleted. Um, a tax rebate sets you free. I mean, we're looking at joint resources, pulling money together, bringing enough money to take on a project, and then perhaps involving travel. But this is so positive. I mean, we're at Mars is even trining the nodes. So we're really looking at like financial breakthroughs and freedoms, and a big upgrade in finances, liberating you to travel, and then and initiate either buying a new property or initiating a new family, because fourth house is family. All right, so that is for Aries, and stay tuned for more coming up. Please like and subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and if you would like a personal reading, feel free to email me or go to my website at soullevels.com. All right, thanks. All right, Taurus, Sun, Moon, Rising. This is going to be an interesting month for you because your ruling planet Virgo has been in the last couple of weeks, 2.5 to 3 weeks, has been in detriment in the sign of Virgo, which means you would have had not a very easy time of things. Things would have been awkward, uncomfortable, not flowing, not feeling like you're getting the things that you love in life, or life isn't as pleasing as you usually like it to be. But that's going to change because on the 13th, your ruling planet moves into the sign of Libra, its own in its dignity. Plus, you've got a new moon in your in your Libra house, which is going to be your sixth house. So the beautiful new moon hitting in your sixth house at the end of the month with your ruling planet in its dignity. Really, really a lot of good things happening. Also, the month begins with your your ruling planet building a beautiful sextile to Jupiter, which is going to create a beautiful flow of abundance in or blessings in love and money, or both, I like to say. So here we are at October 1st. There is a challenging aspect, as I mentioned, with a Mercury squaring Jupiter. And up on the second and third, Mercury makes a big square grand cross with Jupiter, where there could be some conflicts in relationships or issues rise up, and we bust through them. And this is most likely because you're going to have that new moon in your sixth house, which is your house of service. So it's most likely a soul contract because we're about to enter in a 29-year cycle. So a soul joint contract mission where you serve, involving a divine counterpart. You can be married or not married. It can be a partnership agreement. It can involve partnerships with work people, a collaborative in work, but I'm leaning mostly that it is romantic, since your ruling planet is going to be in that sign as the month goes by. And that's, I would say primarily if you are single, this would involve you meeting a divine counterpart or a very serious committed situation, because remember, Saturn is making a very powerful connection to Venus later in the month, your ruling planet, because Venus is going to conjoin the South Node here on the 4th, where you either let go of a relationship that isn't working for you, let go of old patterns in relationships that aren't working for you, some sort of conflict. Something's going to rise up where you're going to really release an old pattern or a relationship or a conflict that you have, but releasing something that's getting in the way of you heading in your destiny. So this is a big, powerful day for you on the October 4th, when this Venus, your ruling planet, in its awkwardness, hits the south node, which is what no longer serves us, and also and Venus, I mean, in Virgo is usually about habits, patterns, things we do on a day to day, our love language, in a way, it's like we're letting go of an old pattern in relationships that can either end a relationship with that full moon in Aries coming up on the 6th. A couple days later, there's a good chance that you really clear once and for all an old karmic pattern and cycle. Because it is we're still clearing some sort of karma with Saturn in retrograde in Pisces. So we're not quite done with all of this until Saturn stations direct and until Saturn goes into Aries in February. We're still sort of unraveling a karmic knot and untangling old patterns and old ways. So for Taurans, your ruling planet being Venus is really, really releasing old connections, old relationship patterns that are just simply not coming with you anymore. It's a big line in the sand for you. Um, so now we're going to move along then to your ruling planet, Venus, then where are we here? Where's Mercury? So we're at the full moon. Are we at the new moon? Sorry, full moon. Let's get to that full moon in Aries. It's on the 7th, and then Mercury on that day moves into Scorpio, into your 7th house of relationships, where there is some intensity. Again, there could be a conflict. There could be some truths revealed, some secrets revealed. You could be, again, ending a connection, or this could be ending a separation. But there is definitely intensity happening in your 7th house of relationships. This is worth getting a read over or a tarot card reading. But again, if you want a reading, feel free to contact me. But there is definitely a transformation occurring involving your relationships where you really do bust through a fear of intimacy and become involved in a really long-term committed divine partnership and take on a soul collaborative contracted type of a project. Or you end a relationship. This could absolutely end a relationship. This full moon in your 7th, sorry, full moon is in your 12th, but it's a very karmic energy that has sort of a subconscious, uh, shall we say, subconscious comes up. The subconscious becomes revealed. The subconscious and full moons it really brings up the subconscious in that 12th house, past life issues, some problems or turmoils. This could be a dramatic full moon for you. But your ruling planet though is making a beautiful sextile to Jupiter. So it does create an open flow. It does break through some stagnant energies in relationships that are preventing you from being in the right relationship or on the right path with your relationship. So there's a lot of upheaval going on there for you guys in that first week up until that full moon. And then we're going to have your ruling planet opposite Saturn, which is going to be another very powerful transit for you where you confront issues of commitment. Um, um, you could make an agreement. There could be facing some issues around commitment or um, because we're about to lock into a 29-year cycle, so we're really facing some sort of obstacle in in enabling people to come into a serious committed situation. In other words, we're at the same time that we're dissolving an old past, we're sort of nurturing a new relationships and new, more destined aligned connections. So we're sort of working through barriers and fears with Pluto involved there and opposite Saturn. I mean, this is very, very strong energy of dealing with relationships and karmic tanglements and untangling problems and facing each other and committing and finally being able to commit because there's some sort of common ground found through these energies. It's kind of complicated for you guys, Taurus. Venus is going through a lot this month. I'm going to take a deep dive into Venus in a post soon because I want to go deeper into the dance between Venus and Saturn. But you guys are definitely on. Think back to that January 20th with Venus, Saturn, what happened for you around there, because that will connect with this opposition. So then we're going to move into that Jupiter Saturn sextile, which is really blessing your 3rd house and your 11th. Wow. So you could really come into some sort of business success on that grand trine. We're building to the grand trine now. We've got this Jupiter. We're looking at the Jupiter trining Saturn, which actually is going to happen for a couple months. It's going to be a really long transit, which is really blessing you through meeting people in your 11th house. Because as you're untangling other karmic connections that aren't right for you, you're sort of meeting new people. And Jupiter in your third house is going to expand your businesses, your work, your communication. If you have a podcast, internet, this a real social media sort of angle, like your social media could really produce clients that really help you financially, or you start a new business because you're also, remember, this is a big water trine. It involves your seventh house. So there could be your divine partner comes in and you really set up and you're starting to feel financially supported. Your business is feeling supported. You're meeting people with money. Your destiny is taking its new shape through people that you're meeting in the community and engaging in the community. And then another relationship is coming in, because then we get this big grand trine involving your seventh house. So there's some sort of contracted partnerships, agreements, blessing you, people that you're meeting, blessing you, and sort of giving your business this sort of financial boost through meeting people, through relationships. Venus in your sixth, making a nice trine to Pluto in your 10th. This is all really blessing your career and your service and your work. So your blessings are going to come through running a small business or your own social media network projects, communication products, media projects, advertising, networking, relationship, coming into a or joining in with partnerships, other partnerships, or your divine mate. Even if you're married, you step into service together and you start meeting, you start getting more in the community with some sort of project or business that you want to advance into the community, advertise. But basically, this grand water trine is the blessings are going to be coming to you through meeting people, through communicating. So you want to get out there. You're going to be very blessed with social interactions, relationships. But also, if you're single, this would be the time that you could meet your person. So you want to get out there. And also, if you're on social media, you could have good luck. Again, I've predicted people meeting their people on social media, but it does have to make a direct transit to one of your planets, a Uranian or Venus to Uranus transit, which can really indicate meeting somebody online, which you could do with this kind of a transit. So then we have that new moon in dignity with Venus, your ruling planet, in dignity, in your sixth house of service, where these brand new beginnings come in, which look really good because, let's get to that, because I want to see what Saturn, so this new moon in Libra hitting on the 20th is going to happen while it's going to be at 27 degrees, and it's going to happen while your ruling planet is, let's take a look and see what's happening. Well, let me just get the moon together. The moon and the sun together, I guess it's 28 degrees. I take that back. Is it 28 degrees? I guess it's 28 degrees. So the moon, your ruling planet is in dignity, blessing this new moon, and it is going to be on your, let me get back to Taurus, in your sixth house of service. And it's really about busting through some sort of fear. Boy, Chiron opposing this full moon, this new moon is going to really, we're going against our comfort zone in a big way here and initiating something. There's a risk element to it, but you are busting through it, squaring that Pluto too. So they're really breaking through these fears. You're really stepping into the new territory. And again, with that Saturn always involved in these, a lot of the Libra eclipses we had where Venus was conjoining Saturn. So we're really seeing things open up and moving forward for you in areas that felt constricted and blocked. And that grand water trine is opening up some big door and blessing you with the results of some sort of struggle you've been in when Saturn and Jupiter were squaring last year. So let's see, what else should I make sure? Well, so yeah, you're building. So Saturn and Jupiter are going to be trining in your third and in your basically in your third and in your 11th. And that's going to be continuing on into November because both Saturn and Jupiter are slowing planets. So you're really going to be seeing these blessings of meeting these new people in your business or communication or media projects steadily growing and growing and growing and becoming really a long term. It's starting to shape up. You're going to start seeing how this shapes your new destiny. You can really start seeing your new life taking form here. And that is going to be blessed and financially supported for the long term. Like you can see a long term abundant stability coming in here through your relationships 11th house and third house. So you want to get out there and mingle. Wait till Venus gets into, you're not feeling your best when Venus isn't in its debilitation. It's not your favorite vibe. And Taurans and people that are ruled by Venus, they really feel their planet when it's not in its Venetian best. So that's going to pass for you. And then on the 13th, you're going to feel a lot better about everything. And then Venus is going to be your friend again. Like you're going to feel like your normal self. Let's put it that way. All right. Have a wonderful month. If you would like a personal reading, feel free to email me or visit my website, soullevels.com. And do like and subscribe and have a wonderful month. All right. Namaste. All right, Gemini, Sun, Moon, Rising. You guys are going to be having a very intense beginning of the month because your ruling planet, Mercury, is going to be on the 3rd, making an exact opposition to Chiron, squaring Jupiter. So there's some kind of a breakthrough where you're finding either a complete awakening to the source of a deep wounding that's holding you back, and you have a big breakthrough, or there is a conflict in some sort of a connection or relationship, because that Aries Libra axis is relationships versus us, and that there is a breakthrough in a communication which shifts your perception, which enables you to sort of go forward into clears your path to go forward. You're breaking through some sort of mental restriction from stepping forward into your true dharma. So you're going to feel this Jupiter square transit strong, Jupiter square Chiron transit very strong. And then your intensity is only going to build because Mercury is going to move into the sign of Scorpio during the full moon in Aries. So, so let's take a look here at what happens. So there is the beginning of the month, starting off with your ruling planet hitting a strong square to Jupiter, where you're really shifting some sort of perception and or dynamic in a relationship that opens things up for you, though, but also has you face some sort of debilitating fear that's holding you back. So after that, then your ruling planet goes into, let me get my notes here. Your ruling planet is then going to move into a square with Pluto about a couple of days later, and it lines up with the full moon. So the full moon is going to happen on the 6th, and Mercury is going to move into, your ruling planet is going to move into, it's basically the 6th. Let's get the hours there. Into your, let's get the houses right here before I say anything. We're in Leo now, so I want to get back to Gemini. Okay, so Mercury is going to move into your, darn it, I wish this program would let me do this, into your 5th house in Scorpio, forming a square to Pluto in your 9th. So it's, sorry, I said 5th house. So Mercury is going to move into your 6th house, makes a square to Pluto in your 9th. So the 9th house is beliefs, philosophies, your religion, your perceptions, a rigid idea. So it's like a big mind-opening thing happening for you here. And a truth, a revelation. You suddenly see something, you learn something new that really opens your mind up about some sort of higher truth, spiritual truth. And now then it makes that square to Mercury in your 6th that either motivates you to step on service in some sort of healing shall we say, venture or work or karmic call, not karmic, sorry, dharmic calling to step into service. And this could be related to a health issue that could show up here in these squares to Pluto that keep happening every time a planet goes in your sixth house. We had Mars square that, Mercury's going to square that, Venus is going to square that. So basically your health is being checked and realigned and nudged. So basically something then comes with this Mercury, your ruling planet in your sixth house, gives you some sort of idea to end this repeat problem in your life, perhaps around health. But you're making a breakthrough here ultimately and transforming your health basically through these transits. But also you're having a big mind awakening and an opening of your perspective and perceptions. Perceptions really hold us back a lot. And because of this Chiron square that opens the month up, we're healing sort of woundings, fears, old thinking from our ancestries that held us back. So we're really busting through all of that. So some sort of old thinking, old perception is decaying here. And this enables you to progress your life in mission or work, your calling, and stepping up and seeing clarity what you're really here to do and how to help in the world, in the grand story of our existence here and the reason you were created. So that's hopefully clear. But again, you're ending, you could also be ending an illness because you find a new idea, a new practice, a new spiritual source of the wounding. And so you transform yourself through this spiritual awakening or a spiritual knowledge, which then ends the stress cause of that sixth house issue. So there's like a spiritual transformation here. So anyway, so then we're looking at that full moon in Aries, which is going to be in your 11th house. So and Mars, its ruling planet, is in your sixth house. So this is a time that looks like, now Mars is in dignity in your sixth house. So there is a strong new tribe connection or social media platform, or you're stepping forward and advertising and networking to sell this new venture you're on that Mars, Mercury, Venus are nudging you on here in your sixth house to step into service in some way around health, most likely, or solutions to stress, spiritual solutions. So now we've got this full moon in your 11th house where you're meeting people. It's social media where you're stepping forward and networking, where you're in the community. You could meet, because we're going to have a new moon in your fifth house at the end of the month. You could meet somebody on social media network if you're single. And then the new moon at the end of the month is new relationship buzz. Or if you're already in a relationship, you make new connections and then you meet new tribes, new groups of people in this full moon, but also you see who your true tribe are. With Chiron there in your 11th house, you're doing a lot of healings through connections and meeting people in the community and your insecurities around that. And so now you're sort of seeing you're seeing truth, you're seeing, because that Mercury, your ruling planet squaring Pluto, is also always going to keep bringing you truths, revelations. Luckily, it's not, Mercury is a fast moving planet. It's probably only going to last about 4 or 5 days, that transit, but it's on the full moon, on the new moon, full moon Aries. So it's a kind of month, kind of a transit in a way. So bottom line is full moon, 11th house, new connections, new people, new tribe, social media, perhaps venture. You could be published if you're a writer. A lot of Geminis are writers who are ruled by Mercury. You get recognition, some sort of project you've been on with that, because we're going to get a trine here with Saturn and Jupiter, which we're going to talk about. Some sort of recognition, winning an award, a long-term goal becomes graspy. You can grasp it, you see what it is, or you suddenly realize what long-term goal you really want, you're going to reach for. So this is a positive full moon, except for that Mars, depending on how Mars is aspecting your chart through this full moon, there could be conflicts, there could be issues, or you could have, because sixth house is enemies, house of enemies, or you could have a health flare up here that motivates you to take some sort of spiritual, you could travel, decide to travel to sort of relax and go a little bit on a spiritual journey through travel. Sometimes traveling to other areas and going to temples or going to beautiful shrines, and it's sort of like a spiritual, what do they call it? They call it something. Uh, hmm, Crusade, not a crusade, but a little bit of a spiritual walkabout. I don't know, I can't think of the word. But anyway, finding solutions to stress through spirituality or higher consciousness, awakening, open your mind, perception shifts, but also meeting, connecting with new tribes on that full moon. Or if you're starting a co-collaborative venture, you have a project that you're putting up and out in social media, publishing and selling it, because Gemini is also commerce and selling. A lot of things could happen in this full moon. So then we're going to have this beautiful trine built. Okay, first of all, I didn't talk about Venus opposite Saturn, but I really am going more into Mercury with you because of the fact that you are Mercury ruled, but Venus is going to oppose Saturn in your 10th and in your 4th, where you could have, there's a dialogue going on in the sky around Saturn, Venus, which I'm going to go into more depth on. But if you want to look back to January 20th, something occurred that this cycle is now facing more a point of now the next step. Does it go forward? Does it end? In a relationship, contract, money, but also it's on the South Node, which means you're releasing old habits in relationships. It's in your 4th house. You could be releasing a relationship and ending a relationship right there altogether on this full moon, Aries. Really good chance of that. And moving, leaving a home, leaving a pattern and cycle in relationships you don't want to do anymore. So then we're going to have that, and then we get to that Venus opposition Saturn after the full moon. Sorry if I'm jumping around here, but there's a lot. But that Venus opposite Saturn is going to have you confront some issues of commitment in money, relationships, or both, or power struggles, or conflicts that are seeking resolution that need to be resolved before Venus can continue on past that South Node, before your life can really continue. So that gets us here now to the Venus Jupiter sextile occurring around that time. After actually we've got this powerful transit Venus Jupiter sextile where something really positive now happens with flow and ease as a result of having really worked through that Venus Saturn opposition. So something now flows with ease. Either a relationship ended and you feel like flow and ease into perhaps a more true destined connection, or you've had a breakthrough in a conflict in your relationship. You're ending an old pattern in this connection, and you now the relationship is healed and you're upgrading, and there's an ease and flow in the connection. So this Jupiter Saturn Venus Jupiter sextile brings some sort of flow, ease, effortless healing, resolutions, and positivity. And for many who are single, it could be a connection coming forward and a commitment opening up and a new relationship starting to flow in gracefully into its union in time for this big new era that we're entering. So that takes us, we've got that Venus. So where are we? We're on the 9th. And then we've got Venus. So Venus is then going to move in on the 13th. It's going to move into Libra, which is your 5th house. And it's making a beautiful trine to Pluto, which is going to really bless your relationships. A friendship could turn into a very serious connection. If you are married, you go traveling, you have sort of a romantic pink bubble period with your spouse, you go traveling, honeymoon type, not honeymoon, but like, you take a nice trip together. So that is a really fabulous energy, Venus entering your 5th house. Wow. And then that means you're going to have that new moon at the end of the month there. So a new relationship. If you're in the wrong relationship at the beginning of the month, you're going to be in the right one by the end of the month. Big shift here. But you're going to find this new relationship is a very blessed one. Look at it, opposing Saturn, meaning that it is the long-term connected, right connection, making a beautiful trine to Pluto, indicating it's a past life sort of twin flame type of a situation. Coming into divine union support, like universal supporting this. It's beautiful. Wow, really. That's pretty great. Um, so where are we now? We're on the 14th. So now we're going to look at this grand water trine that's happening where we've got the Mars and Mercury. Let's get it to the right day. Trining Saturn. Let's go forward here. It's the it's around the 20th that we start to see it. So let me get there. Okay, let's get to the 20th. We're going to start to build a trine Jupiter Saturn trine on the 20th. There is a Jupiter and Saturn start to form the trine, and that is going to be for Gemini. Let's take a look at what house that hits for Gemini. Which way should I go? This way. So that for Gemini is going to be in the second. So you've got your work houses, all your work houses. So you've got this beautiful water trine occurring in your work houses where you're going to be blessed with work, money, service. So some sort of really beautiful, and these water trines are usually dharmic, because Saturn's involved. This is going to be a long-term committed new financial, or remember, this is the results of some sort of struggle that you had when Saturn, Jupiter were squaring in the last year and a half. They happened twice, causing us to really have to deal and face with something very challenging, and work hard at dissolving something old and start to clear the path to the new structure that we're building and for our lives in these new big chapters that are happening. And starting February, when Saturn is moving very quickly in the sign of Aries as it enters Aries again. So that's really when the new era begins. So the big water trine. So this is hitting your workhouses. So some sort of beautiful work opportunity opens up as a result of some of the hard work you've done before with that Saturn square Jupiter. Now Jupiter's blessing you in your 10th house. Saturn and Jupiter are a result of our efforts. So whatever efforts you did, if you didn't do really much, then maybe nothing huge happens, but something good will happen no matter what. But it depends on how much effort. Saturn says how much effort you put into something will bear that equivalent results. But these are blessed, and it's involving your finances, money, service, career, upgrade, long-term stability in finances and career. Your status could change if you're married, single, which then blesses your finances. You could get into a new relationship because that's happening with that new moon in your 5th house, which then puts you guys into soul contracted dharmic mission together or purpose together or some sort of a project you guys take on together, and it becomes very visibly in the community with that full moon in your 11th house. It becomes very seen, as it were, and you are getting notoriety on it. So it could play out in many, many ways. So that takes us, there's a lot of water happening in this month in the skies. So anyway, so that's going to take us to the new moon Libra in your 5th house, which I've already talked about. So fascinating month for you guys. You're going to feel a lot, especially during the beginning, a lot of shifting in the beginning. And this is the month that you can see your new destiny, your life starting to take shape. So if you would like a personal reading and know more about that for yourself, feel free to contact me through soullevels.com or email me, MadelaineParker111@gmail.com. And do like and subscribe. All right. Have a wonderful month. Namaste. Hey, Cancer, rising sun, moon, and ascendant. You guys are going to be feeling quite a lot of shift in this month because you're a cardinal. And I find in general, Cancers tend to move, make big life-changing decisions during cardinal seasons. All cardinal signs do, but this is going to be particularly impacting you because Jupiter is in your sign and Jupiter is in the sign of Cancer, which adds an emphasis to home and family. So the big water trine that's coming up is going to really have a powerful impact in your relationships and dharma. So that's kind of a theme that's running for everybody anyway, but Cancers and the Cardinals are going to feel this very strong shift in this month because you're going to have a new moon and a full moon in your cardinal houses, in your Kendra houses. That's usually when we have transits in our Kendra houses, which is the 10th, 4th, 7th, and 1st, we see the changes are much more pronounced. All right, so the month begins with Mercury moving into a square with Chiron, opposing Chiron and squaring Jupiter. So that is going to happen for you guys in your fourth, 10th, and first. So there's some sort of confidence. Now, with Jupiter transiting your first house, you're developing quite a bit of confidence to assert your will, your opinion, your position on things. And if it's making a square to Chiron, and with a Mercury there, there might be some sort of setback on that journey where you're feeling perhaps triggered about an opinion, but it could be involved, it most likely involves father family. And so there might be some sort of conflict. And this is the sort of transit with Saturn in your ninth, the North Node in your ninth, where you're really developing inner conviction and denouncing outer authority, where you're going against your father and developing or your family or your heritage, your family lineage, and developing your own higher, more, shall we say, progressed vision, or to move the family vision forward, to sort of create conflict around the old paradigm in order to sort of, you're probably the black sheep. Most cancers are. Because you're very intuitively spiritually connected. So you're probably either ending a family conflict that caused a lot of insecurities in you because growing up in a family that may have been more intellectual like I did as Cancer rising, that you weren't really validated. Your intuitive callings were not validated. So now you're getting this sort of transit where you're owning and developing courage with Jupiter in your first house, giving you confidence to defend and hold your position against the family authority. That's the kind of thing it could play out. Could be in your own family that you've developed, that you have conflict with your children over beliefs, political beliefs. There could be some sort of backlash communication that comes out during these types of transits that cause conflict, that sort of slip out. And but they can be the higher consciousness, of course, we are in these experiences, the more, shall we say, unwounded we are in our response, untriggered we are in our response, and the more we are stepping back and finding. Mars is in a strong position during this month, so people are a little more able to sort of contain, but it is very close to this full moon, which is going to be in Aries, and that leads me to the full moon in Aries, where Mars is making Mercury is making a square to Pluto. And so there could be some sort of family crisis conflict in this full moon. But what it does reveal to you with that full moon is that you are taking on a confident, because that full moon is going to be at 14 degrees. But with Chiron up there in your 10th house, you're going to be validated in some level, because that reveals, because Chiron in your 10th house is empowering you to step forward with conviction in your own inner conviction rather than seeking external authority. So you're going to sort of find out that you're right or that you're wrong, and now you know what is right. Something like that. It's an interesting full moon for you because it's happening in your fourth and in your 10th, which could indicate moving job, career shiftings, living with somebody, moving cardinal situations. You've got Saturn rules your seventh house. You're untangling old karmic knots. So there could, when Saturn is going direct in November, we could be seeing a relationship initiate for you. And then I'm jumping all over, but I'll try to rein back in. But there is some sort of untangling of karma in old connections, old relationships, old contract agreements, and you're initiating a new relationships chapter with that 29-year cycle, Saturn ruling your seventh, and some sort of new career direction is happening for you as well. And so this full moon in Aries really illuminates what that is. And as we enter this trine that I'm about to talk about, you're going to start seeing your new life, the new life that's going to go forward when Saturn moves direct when Saturn moves into Aries in February, which is when we really are initiating the new era. You're going to really see the new direction your career has been reshaping itself to in the last, well, we've had those Libra Aries eclipses in the last couple of years. So your life is reshaping in these cardinal houses right now. And that involves relationships, your own identity, you becoming more confident, you becoming more bold and bigger and clear about your direction and or becoming more confident to battle the insecurities that are stopping you from taking on a more prominent role in your career or being bold to take more bold steps in your career. But I think this full moon brings a big upgrade in your career. So, and Mars is going to be in your fifth house next to Mercury, building a big water trine. But I want to, oh yeah, so let's just, sorry, I don't want to jump around too much, but let's just get to the Venus. So Venus and the South Node are going to conjoin in your third house, where you release either a relationship that's in your vicinity, or you release, I would say, trying to this is tends to be a transit where you let go of a karmic situation because it's opposite Saturn, but it's in your third house. So it would be more your sort of the ways that you operate, communicate in relationships. You're releasing old patterns in that area. And so then that really prepares you for some sort of committed relationship or new project or the ending of a karmic entanglement or pattern, which then gets tested when it's opposed. And in January 20th, Venus was joining Saturn in your ninth house, where something may have happened in a divine connection or a later in life partnership. If you're single, if you're in a marriage, then we're looking at dharmic contracts with your other partnership agreements. With Venus is about to go into Libra, where it makes a kite here. And I hope I'm not jumping around, but we're seeing a forward movement here with Venus enters a trine into your eighth house with joint resources, funding, getting a loan to support a project, a dharmic path that really stabilizes your destiny. But again, could also initiate moving in with somebody so that you can join in. You could get a roommate, it could be a true love, a divine partnership, or if you're married and in a connection, you in your connection you could move or redecorate your house or have a child. Jupiter is in Cancer, which is like in your first house, it could make more of you, right? Um, so we're seeing a really nice Venus in its dignity in your fourth house. So some sort of blessing in relationships, money, and both as a result of having cleared up your karma and having worked hard in an area of entanglement in a relationship because Saturn rules your seventh house. So you've been working hard to untangle a past connection, karmic connection, or patterns of shifting a dynamic in your if you're in your relationship, you're shifting a dynamic of operating in your relationship where you give too much of yourself away. Maybe that can be very much the case. So your relationship is reshaping. But anyway, now we're seeing this beautiful blessing in October 13th when Venus comes in and makes this beautiful kite opposite Saturn, where you could become very, very committed and you come into joint soul contract because we're going to have a new moon there at the end of the month in your fourth house, where you have a new living situation. You could move. What else? Buy a new property, sell a property, but or romance, move in, start a new family, start a new romance type of a thing. Or it could just be that you move and you sign a contract. You know, Libra Venus can just mean signing contracts, but they're very benefic, very beautiful. It would be a very good place to live. You'd be very happy there. So now we're looking at the Venus. We've done the Venus opposite Saturn, which you can look back to January 20th and see if anything happened in your romantic life that would indicate another step forward in that process. By the way, that Venus South Node is saying we can't go forward till we get work through some sort of opposition, some sort of conflict, which does get resolved. When Venus moves into that kite, it's like it's resolved. And now what happens? Something opens up and flows forward towards that Saturn and Neptune, opening the door to the big new era starting when Saturn goes into Aries in February. All right. So we are moving into now the big grand water trine hitting your first house. How blessed is that? Your first, your ninth. And let's get into that. That's around the 20th. Something does happen on the 18th. What did I have here for the 18th? Does something happen on the 19th? Oh, yeah. I did forget one thing, actually. Let's just hop back here. Around the 9th, we do have this Jupiter Venus sextile on the 6th. I kind of skipped over that, but that's a beautiful flow between a relationship and finance. Well, that we need to get that in your first, in your, I'm jumping around. Let's get that Cancer back on the first, in the first house. So yeah, that puts Jupiter and sorry, a Jupiter Venus sextile, third, second. So there could be some really positive communication involving a neighbor, financial opportunity, working together with a neighbor, somebody you know, sibling, good communication, or it could be a romantic connection coming in through communication, through media, depending on your chart. But that's a nice transit to look forward to because it's hitting your first house. So some nice information, news. That's very good news for money, romance, or both of them. So now let's move forward into the 20th area where we're starting to see the Saturn Jupiter trine. And that's going to be in your ninth and in your first. So that's potential travel. Really good news around if you're in your career, if you're involved in teaching, writing, traveling, philosophy, public speaking. If you're in philosophy, if you're an astrologer, there's could be some really good long-term news, really gives you a real boost in your, shall we say, how you're seen, known, recognized, blessed, money. But this is the results of your hard work from Saturn squaring Jupiter all in the last couple years. And now something really opens up. It can be a past life relationship. Remember, Saturn rules your seventh house. So, sorry, later in life relationship, sometimes the ninth house represents that. Then you've got Mars, Mercury in your fifth house. That is really leaning to a co-collaborative venture with a partner, a new friend, a new relationship comes in. Um, so, the message is kind of repeat here, but with Jupiter in your first house and squaring that Chiron, you're really finding a lot of confidence to step forward and be more proactive in your career. And it's kind of putting you more into the limelight, more into the light, and giving you a sort of that beautiful trine from your first to your ninth. That's what they call a Dharma trikone. It's like a trine. It's very blessed for you. You really make some sort of big strides forward in your career, in your Dharma. It's like some sort of, I guess it's a result of it's based on a result of how much work you've done, but you're going to see that here we get the big trine. Fifth house, collaborative, entrepreneurial venture, creative writing projects, um, film work. It could be making beautiful trine to Neptune, Saturn. I mean, wow. Higher philosophy, teaching, and then you become prominent, you become blessed, you become seen. Jupiter is this is the Dharma hitting your Dharma house. It's like you're really in alignment with some project going forward. And it does look like you could be initiating a relationship and actually moving into another property with someone in order to co-collaborate on this big, beautiful trine project or venture or co-collaborative spiritual. Um, could be a writing project, media project, performance. You could become a public speaker. Um, but so much energy in your fifth house, most likely that is the house of romance. So there is a good chance we're getting this sort of a romantic relationship opening up here for you, or a co-collaborative venture and travel with if you're already in a relationship with your person. So a lot of great stuff happening there. You might be invited to travel somewhere with friends and do a retreat. There's many ways this can play out. So if you'd like a personal reading, of course, feel free to contact me. My website is soullevels.com or email me at madeleineparker111@gmail.com. So then that moves us to the new moon in Libra, which will be in your fourth house. So there's a good chance you do pack up and move into a new house or a new beginning with a new family. You get into a relationship and you move together and you create sort of a new family. You join your families together, or you buy a new property, or you really invest a lot of money into your property and you redecorate it, move it, make it look beautiful again. Um, so there's a beautiful month ahead for you, Cancer. I really can't see anything to be too concerned about other than that Jupiter squaring Chiron in your first. You may get triggered at times to step forward to show your growth and how much you've healed, and in order to sort of tackle your dharma and face on any kind of those challenges that have appeared in the last year and a half with that squaring Jupiter Saturn there, where you're now able to really sort of hold your ground and position. You have more confidence and inner authority, inner conviction about your dharma. All right. I hope you have a wonderful month and namaste. Hi, Leo, Sun, Moon, Rising. All right. The month begins with the big Mercury square to Jupiter, and then it will move into a square with Chiron around the third here. So we're going to have a intense sort of shuffling of some perceptions, some ideas that you have that are keeping you small, that are based in wounding, that are preventing you from really going forward with your true soul's calling. And there's a confrontation, a communication, perhaps with a relationship, a significant other, neighbor, sibling, or shall we say, in a positive way, some sort of really good idea could come in that it's a breakthrough that your insecurities have been stopping you from doing, and you break through that perception or that fear, and you go and Jupiter empowers you to take a strong position, a voice around something. You're not afraid to go against the common belief in your environment, those that are around you. So this could play out in a variety of ways. So just take it easy, try not to get too defensive, and be open-minded to other people's perceptions and such nots. But that could be a challenging couple days at the beginning of the month. And then to complicate things around that full moon in Aries, which will be in your ninth house, um, there could be some more intense. You could end a relationship and move. I'll be honest there with a Mercury with Mars very close to that squaring Pluto in your seventh. There's a good chance if you're in the wrong relationship, you make an ending, you end a contracted situation, and you move. That could happen. Because it could be related to other transits in your from the eclipses before. But this could be a tough full moon for you in relationships and in your living situation. There could be a big reveal that you see something, you realize that you have to end a relationship. Now, if you're in the right relationship, you realize you have to set a boundary with somebody in your relationship and make a strong, or you move with your you just move and you end a contracted situation with a tenant or landlord or something. But there is a shift between your fourth and your seventh. Those are Kendra houses, which means they change your whole life basically. But again, this is just not an eclipse or anything. This is a full moon. Um, and there is a perception that opens up in your mind, a new belief, a new perception in that ninth house full moon, that you want to travel, that you want to end a relationship so you can travel, you want to move, you want to stop where you're living so that you can have a lower, cheaper rent place so that you can travel, or you realize that your beliefs are too different in a connection, you end it. I mean, this full moon can play out in a lot of different ways, but it's basically in your it's in your ninth house, revealing to you a truth, a higher concept, some sort of spiritual awakening, some sort of realization, a higher perspective. Now, sometimes that's achieved through traveling. So this full moon takes you on a trip traveling, and then you have this sort of big new perception awakening about life. But so that's the first part. That's your full moon there in your ninth house, happening on let me get my notes out here. That's happening on the 6th, but also that this full moon does bring some challenges with that Mercury squaring Pluto. Could be information that you discover that makes you want to end a relationship too. That can happen. So then we're going to have, so your ruling planet is the sun. It's in fall, basically, when it's in Libra, and it's in your third house. So that's going to give you a little bit of anxious tension, a little bit in communication and in all things third house, which is commerce, selling, running a business. But Libra, it's ruled by Venus, and then Venus. So let's take a look at what's Venus doing. Venus is basically going to conjoin the South Node here, where it looks like, the South Node, this could indicate ending a relationship, dropping a relationship, or um, if you're in your right long-term relationship, you stop a habit, a repeat habit in your dynamic. That could be, it's because it's across the eighth house where you get triggered or you get jealous or you get possessive. So or vice versa, they're doing that to you. So there's something shifting in your relationship. Either your relationship is ending or you're shifting a dynamic in the relationship where things flip, maybe where they make more effort for you or vice versa. But also then we're going to have a Venus opposite Saturn. And that's going to happen on when does Venus oppose Saturn? On the ninth there. And so that's also happening as Venus is about to enter Libra. Venus enters Libra on the 13th, but with Venus opposite Saturn there in your second and your eighth, again, that could be a conflict around resources in relationships, or also if you're in the right relationship, this could just be problems in balancing your debt and your income. But the month is about to open up really, really well. So if there's anything negative that happens here with your finances and your debt, things are looking better. So whatever bump happens here, it's not for long. So hang in there. But that Venus opposite Saturn in your eighth is connected to anything that could have happened for you when Saturn and Venus were conjoining there around January 20th of this year. So there might have been some sort of financial to end a debt, some real effort or planning or desire to really end a financial sort of imbalance from income and to debt or outcome. And so you've really taken on a committed effort to sort of be more disciplined around your finances and to be very careful with your money. So this will either show the results of that and that you've balanced this out right, or you're going to see some more problems around that. But this all opens up because after Venus passes that South Node, we're really working something out here that's going to open things up for you financially. So whatever this challenge is for you in your second and your eighth, this frees up here when Venus moves into the third house, where it's creating this beautiful. This is on the 13th, and it creates this beautiful kite with Neptune. And then Saturn is going to move into your ninth house, where in February, when it goes back into Aries, when things are really moving forward into the new era, where we're really initiating the big new chapter, because Saturn's going to move very quickly. So there's some sort of committed new business operation or financial support to let's say the challenge with that South Node there is you get rid of a debt and now you qualify for a loan to start a business. Venus in your third, Libra, a writing project. You decide you have a real confidence now, belief in writing about the hidden, unseen things about finances, hidden truths. But Venus there in its dignity in your third house is very positive, making a beautiful kite, by the way, to the moon Leo right now when we're pulling this. So it's like that first week looks a bit tough, but then after that, we're really building some really good energies with Venus in third house, running a business, media projects, social networking, meeting. You could meet a new person if you are going through a breakup, or even if you're just single, you meet a new person in your neighborhood, or online. Um, you could start selling beautiful things with look at that beautiful air trine, because it goes into Uranus in the 11th house, which is like sudden meeting somebody. You could meet a true love like that, or sudden boost in your social media platform, and you start selling beautiful things. Maybe you decide to start selling beautiful things on Etsy, beautiful jewelry that you make with your hands. Third house is skills, new creative projects using your skills, making things. Gemini is also skills. 11th house suddenly really bursts into success for you. Okay, so that would be the Venus moving into its dignity, into your third house of business, and this really blesses some sort of big new chapter, new cycle in your life when Saturn comes into Aries in February. So, All right, so now let's talk about the big trine that's building here. Oh, I forgot about the Jupiter Venus sextile that happens. When does the Venus sextile happen? That happens. The Jupiter, I keep rushing through that, but that's a really nice energy that's going to hit with Jupiter and Venus. Um, where are we? We are on October 1st, so this is looking like this Jupiter, see Jupiter, Venus is going to be at 23 degrees, making a really nice sextile from your second to your 12th. So something does also flow very well for you in the backdrop of some of this other more challenging things that are happening with the Mercury square Pluto. We've also got this really nice something about your karmic patterns or clearing and whatever conflict or challenges are happening on this other stuff kind of clears your path, clears your karma as you release old habits, old patterns in ways that you're operating, which actually really raises your vibrations. And I think looking at that transit brings you a nice confident because you've got a square to Chiron there where your new beliefs are opening up and you're releasing sort of insecurities around believing things or not sure what to believe. And now it's like you're opening your mind, you're feeling more confident about what's real and true internally for you with that Saturn retrograde in your eighth, showing you patterns and habits you need to release that are blocking your success because of their low self-worth. So now we're going to go back to this water trine and oh yeah, high self-worth reflects in our abundance in all aspects of our life. So now we're entering this big water trine, Saturn trining Pluto, where you're getting the results of whatever struggle you've been on when Jupiter Saturn squared last year a couple of times. And you're seeing a big, nice, let's get you into the right house here. Leo in the first, please. Wrong way. Leo in the first. So that Jupiter's in your 12th, really healing some deep down wounding, squaring that ninth house, which seems to play out in your perceptions or your beliefs. And with the big water trine developing here from your eighth, fourth, and 12th, you're healing some deep subconscious wounding pattern. And as that heals, you're becoming more confident, believing in yourself because you're releasing old paradigm beliefs that are really kind of holding you back and causing potentially conflict in your life because Aries over the ninth is conflict over beliefs. So you're releasing that, you're finding a flow, and then there's some sort of financial abundance, some sort of opportunity comes in, either around property, real estate, selling, getting a loan, moving, um, buying a property. This is very much the energy of buying a property, actually getting a loan and buying. So, but if that's what you want to do right now, that's going to be very well supported, very blessed. Venus in the third house is in dignity, is empowering you financially. Jupiter in your 12th in trining that eighth could also be travel, but some sort of financial liberation comes in because the eighth house is other people's money, joint resources, buying a property. I keep going to that. I mean, a property sells that you've been trying to sell and you get really good money or you get the amount that you really wanted because this is exalted energies, or shall we say, dignified Venus. With Venus being in its indignity during these energies is blessing us financially in general. So these transits, especially if they're hitting your financial houses, are getting an extra ping from Venus. And you got a lot going on in that fourth house with all that water, all those planets there at this point. So there's a lot of emotions involved, a lot of joy, happiness. New family could also be that you decide to make a family and you know get married, pull your resources together, have children, develop a family. I think I'm repeating that, but I'm trying to think of something else I can say about that. But that's a pretty nice transit for you. A lot of blessings, ending debts, tax returns, all kinds of good things could happen with that. If you want a personal reading to go into more depth about how that's going to play out for you, feel free to contact me, soullevels.com, or email me at madelineparker111@gmail.com. So then that takes us here to these beautiful new moon in your third house where again with Venus there blessing it, giving you opportunities, meeting people, some sort of new beginning comes in a media project, selling, making things, jewelry, making beautiful art, handcrafting something, new beginnings in a business, um, fashion, selling fashion online. Uranus is going to be making when Venus goes into that house there, it's going to make a nice angle to Uranus. So maybe you start this is a good time to open up a platform, a new social media platform to start selling something that you make and that you love or that is beautiful. Um, so this is all in all a really fabulous month for everyone, but for Leo, I see really good stuff. Other than that potential challenge there with that Mercury Scorpio in your fifth, that first part of the month looks a little bumpy, but if it shows up in ending a relationship, the rest of the month just opens up with beautiful flow and harmony and blessings. And if that happens, worst case scenario, it's for the best. So, all right, have a wonderful month. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. All right, namaste. Hey, Virgo, Sun, Moon, Rising. The month starts out October 2025 with Venus in your first house. And usually, Venus in the first house does bring quite a bit of, shall we say, good health, especially if it's in Virgo. And, you do tend to look better when Venus is in our first house. However, it is Venus in its detriment. So perhaps it has challenged in some ways those areas as well. But we do have Venus conjoining the North Node here in a few into the month here, October 4th, where you're really, this is a theme going on in your life in general, where you're releasing an old version of yourself, old habits and patterns in relationships that are perhaps controlling or stressful or stress inducing, because you're learning to go more with the flow with that North Node in your seventh. But on the early part of the month, where Venus conjoins the South Node, there could be also a relationship you're letting go of. It can play out in a variety of different ways depending on how it's impacting your chart specifically. But on the whole, this is the end of a chapter because after this, Venus goes beyond the North Node. It breaks out of the North Node barrier. And so, in other words, something has to be released so that you can go forward. So, there's this energy of going forward, leaving something behind, old patterns in relationships or an old relationship that is basically toxic. You're just releasing toxic patterns and toxic relationships in general, things that don't support you being who you authentically are. So that's the beginning of the month. Now we do have a Mercury Jupiter square happening too. It's Chiron. We have Mercury opposing Chiron. So with that North Node Venus conjunction, there could be a conflict in a relationship that fires up the need to now release it, or we are facing some sort of deep wounding with Chiron in your eighth around insecurities in relationships, in connections, and versus communication, because that is the Aries Libra axis. So there's some balance. You've had the eclipses in your seventh and your first for the year, and there's the nodes are there right now. So you're really learning about how to give more, give less, be in a relationship, how me versus us versus me. So there's this theme going on, and now with this Chiron in your eighth and Mercury is in your second, there is some sort of deep, low self-worth issues that need to be confronted, that need to be healed in order for you to go forward with your confidence here in this 11th house where Jupiter is and where there's going to be a grand trine occurring. So there's this square to Chiron here where there's some sort of facing of deep subconscious traumas and woundings that give you low self-worth, that prevent you from believing in yourself and following your dharmic role or being bold in your community or standing forward in a mission or standing strong in your social media or promoting yourself in a project or stepping forward and being like applying for a like an award or getting an award. You could get an award. So it's like you have the confidence now to step forward and sort of raise the bar on who you're here to be and become sort of more prominent at what you do because you're getting over some sort of low self-worth and insecurity that's very deep down, very, very deep down here. So that's the beginning of the month. And then we're going to get that full moon in Aries, which again is on the same axis of your eighth and your second, which is about self-worth and deep financial. Basically, finances are having really high. True wealth comes from self-worth. So there's some sort of the full moon shows you, could really show up some inner Saturn retrograde there in your seventh house, some sort of deep wounding and insecurities around allowing people in intimately close to you. Now, this could, with a full moon in the eighth house, it can play out with somebody passing away, a family member, a relationship that, but again, full moons in the eighth are, you can tell this is something it's usually not a surprise. Mars is transiting your third house, which rules the full moon in Scorpio. So there are some communication truths coming out. Maybe you're breaking through a fear of really showing up intimately and close with someone, and you're really busting through fears of communicating and allowing somebody in close and taking down your walls. Or you're ending a relationship too because you could have a conflict with somebody there in your sixth house, a work-related situation, or you discover someone's working against you, and there could be severing of ties. Um, that square to Pluto can play out in so many different ways, a power struggle in a work environment. Um, but the full moon in Aries in your eighth house could bring to light some big fears that square your Jupiter. Again, this is this theme where you're busting through some sort of lower density frequencies in your psyche that play out in financial crisis or in relationship crisis, um, and not allowing people close, something like that. It could also be that you hold too high standards. You're very critical because you've got that South Node Venus. You could be releasing some sort of overcritical of something, and in a relationship, Saturn in your seventh, where you're ending a karma being overcritical of your partners, and then you sort of discover who your true partner is, ending one that isn't, perhaps, and allowing one that is to come in. So the beginning of the month could be a tricky time for Virgos, but things open up. Don't forget that we're also going to have a Venus opposition of Venus is going to oppose Saturn too on the 8th, which again could bring conflicts in a connection, in a relationship involving this power struggle through communication. But when Venus, now in the 13th, Venus is going to move into your second house, which is going to really bring a breakthrough in the struggles or the tension, because there's a trine now and we're entering a beautiful air trine. So some sort of blessing, career, work blessing comes in. Nice financial sort of, because Venus in Libra is dignified, and this is the house that feeds you. And again, it can be relationship too, but Sun there, Libra, Venus, very good money coming, money situation improvement. Um, what else? You could start to Venus in the second house sometimes is, and it's making a beautiful trine again. This could be that you decide to start selling something on social media as a career, commerce, Gemini, media project, or to come on media and selling jewelry, art, or taking on a creative project, your own career, depending. You may have planets in your second house, so you decide to become an artist and develop and create beautiful things. Because the third and the second are making things, skills with our hands, Gemini skill with our hands. So, and Virgos are very detailed oriented. So it depends on your chart, and this is a media house, so it could be media, making things with your hands, but basically we're really looking at the potential to expand a business, career and the financial, because Venus is in your second house and rules your second house, and it's making this beautiful triangle trine, which means that it would really bless ultimately your finances in a very strong way. It would be a nice financial boost. And then when it comes in, and as it's what the other thing that's happening is that Venus is, I'm sorry, go back to the hour. Venus is also making a sextile to Jupiter, which is in your 11th. When that happens, I kind of rushed past that. That happens here on the 8th, around that full moon. So there is some sort of blessing coming in through people you know, or soul, or networking, or you get recognition, you win an awards, you meet some people that really bring you some nice clients, or this is really plays out in a financial or relationship blessing. Now, then that leads us into, now let's go back to Venus being in that first, coming into the first. And then what else do we have? Um, yeah, Venus makes this beautiful kite to your eighth, where all this big, so there could be the beginnings here of a relationship, or if you're already in a relationship, joining your resources to start some sort of big project with a counterpart, shared resources. If you're not in a relationship, there's a good chance these energies do bring you into a divine partnership or a collaborative venture with other partners in some sort of financial. It could be investments, joint, you pull together with people and invest money, or your own, you decide to invest soul joint resources and pull your money together and invest in things with somebody that you are in a relationship with. But there's quite a few ways this could play out. So if you want a personal reading to look into all of that, you can book at soullevels.com or email me at madeleineparker111@gmail.com. Now, here we are entering this beautiful trine of Saturn, Jupiter, where we're going to see the results of some hard work, some effort, and the struggles that have happened with Saturn, Jupiter squaring in the last couple years or year and a half. And this is happening in your 11th and your 7th. So, clients, this is a nice client. If you're a lawyer, you would get really make some new contacts, which would bring you long-term new contracts and clientele. Or you meet a relationship online or through people in a social environment. You bust through your insecurities and you initiate a relationship that's going to last a long time. This would be a relationship that does work. Now that you've cleared some sort of karmic entanglement involving other relationships and connections. Um, so then that water trine hits into your third house. So then we've got sort of collaborative media projects opening up, or selling projects, or just a lot of busyness in your neighborhood as you make some sort of new, because this big water trine here in your, well, these are the houses of air. So it's kind of like a desire, kind of like your hopes and your dreams and your wishes coming true. Long-term hopes, wishes, and dreams coming true, blessed, involving relationship partnerships and co-collaborative ventures, media projects, writing projects. Scorpio also is what else could that be? Investment options, and initiating some sort of um, business involving Scorpio themed things, which would be what would be Scorpio themed things? Transformational ventures, things that help people transform their energies. So it could be healing, it could be um, psychological. So kind of hard to really pinpoint those three houses, how that water trine works out, but we're really looking at financial blessings, and we see a seventh house with the North Node there, involving long-term committed partnership agreements. So that looks really great. It'll play out in, you're going to see financial abundance and opportunities opening up through meeting people. These are relationship, like third house people around you, getting out in the community, humanitarian effort, and involving partnership agreements, contracts. Seventh house is the house of contracts. All right, so then that leads us to this fabulous new moon in Libra. So that's going to be in your second house. So this could could be a new relationship starting, or it could be a new financial venture, a new way of earning income, and it's very blessed with that Libra Venus. Libra Venus is a usually that involves the arts, fashion, beautiful, creativity, things that are very sparkly and pretty. Second house is valuable things. So something of value really comes into your life, or you start to really see your own value. Your value and self-esteem really raises, that enables you to take on some sort of this bold new adventure that really lines you up. Whatever happens in this new moon in this financial house of yours lines you up to your, when Saturn moves back into Aries in February, really lines you on your true dharmic path. But it is going to involve some sort of financial investments, joint resources, or psychological, transformative type sorts of projects. All right. So I hope you have a wonderful month, and do like and subscribe if you haven't. And namaste. All right, Libra, Sun, Moon, Rising. You guys are ruled by Venus. So the beginning of the month is going to be very interesting for you. We start off on the 1st of October with Venus making a building connection to the South Node. So something big is going to shift. Now that's going to exact in on the, let's get to the exact day. I think it's the connection of the nodes is going to be on October 4th. So we're looking at the beginning of the month, a big sort of shift in your life around love, your attachments, patterns in love that are not the sort of toxic patterns, because this is hitting in your 12th house. So this is a karmic, releasing karmic relationships, releasing karmic patterns, but releasing the patterns that are inside your subconscious that cause you to get into karmic entanglements or karmic energies with people, which can be combative, being that Aries is over your seventh. So we've got quite a bit happening with that seventh house this month and your first house, because we're going to have a full moon in your seventh house right around this period. So that, and then we're having a new moon in Libra at the end of the month, but that full moon in your seventh house, which is happening on the 6th, 2 days after the Venus conjoins the South Node. So in other words, in that time frame window, it's all sort of blending in around that week where you become very clear of a pattern that you're going to release. Now, if you're in your right divine partnership, you're releasing a pattern of operating with them that creates toxicity. It can be, you can be in the right relationship and still go through these dynamic shifts, but in the Libra Aries axis, which is me versus togetherness, aloneness versus togetherness, us versus them. So you're really, as a Libra, you're here to find that balance. So this karmic entanglement happening on this Venus conjoining the South Node can also have you release relationships that are not right for you. Now, Mercury in the beginning of the month has a square here to Chiron. Sorry, Mercury is opposite Chiron. Jupiter is squaring Mercury and Chiron. So there's a good chance that you get into some sort of verbal power struggle, verbal communication, triggering, but but with the Jupiter in the picture, it can really expand the situation so it seems really worse than it is. But what's happening is it's accelerating your healing in these dynamics in relationship where you get triggered that cause you to act in hostile ways in your connections that are destructive to the connection, that create karmic. So you would either end relationships because you don't work through these, or you're not seeing your part in it, in the conflict in a relationship that you're causing, because we're really manifesting our own energy, our own reality, our own level of consciousness. So our experience that's playing out in this Jupiter square Chiron with Mercury as the South Node and Venus conjoin is where you really, Libras are going to feel this the biggest more than anyone, where you really do end toxic ways of operating in relationships, and you realize that these toxic ways of operating in a relationship are stemming from an unhealed wound you have in your insecurities or your need to control relationships, because Chiron in your seventh house here, that's been there for a long time, is healing the pattern that causes conflict in your relationships that are triggered through wounding. So this is being healed right now, and it's hard work and it's potentially painful. But with Venus but Venus cannot go across this South Node barrier until you've learned this lesson. Things cannot progress for you somehow until you see how it is in your field that causes the reality in your relationships or dynamic that you don't like. And what is the answer going to be? Well, Saturn retrograde is going to say, detach, discipline, disengage, but also connect with what is spiritually real and the relationships that are soul aligned for you. Because it's in your 12th house, Virgo, you're releasing things that are not spiritually ways, higher consciousness ways of operating, and allowing your subconscious wounding to dictate the dynamics in your connections. And two, attachments to relationships in general, actually. But some relationships that are not your true soul connected divine partners will fall away in these energies. So then we have, after that full moon, so the full moon in your seventh house is going to bring clarity, a lot of clarity around your dynamics in relationships. It's happening at 14 degrees in your seventh house. So there's a good chance you find some sort of awakening revelation around who your true person is, what really love is, what isn't love, how you're contributing to connections in ways that are not love. And so you're going to sort of make a big, powerful shift in your patterns as you're doing this, as you're releasing negative patterns and ways of operating in relationships that throw the balance out. You're also going to see how you can balance things better. You're going to learn, you're going to see what to do now that is right, which is most likely to choose a connection that is really soul aligned, or to trust that the connection you're in is truly soul aligned, so you don't need to worry and you can let go of a lot of the petty stuff. So it's a big thing here for you guys, Libra. I mean, I could go on, but I'm trying to keep these shorter because this video is going to get very, very long. So that's the full moon. And it can bring, if you are in a connection, it can bring your true connection. If you're not in a connection, sorry, it can bring your true connection. And if you're in a connection, it can make you, if you're in the wrong situation, it can reveal that that is the wrong situation. You end your relationship. But above all, the most important thing that you do stop is an out of balance energy that you have been operating in relationships, where you either give too much, try to control it, and get very hostile and aggressive in this disappointment when the other person isn't meeting your expectations, which is actually really what's going on. So you have to let go of your expectations, and you have to, of what the other person is supposed to do, your head, your ego idea, and let the relationships fall away without you trying to control it, or let the one happen that is in your soul that you genuinely do believe is your true person. So you connect with them on that soul plane rather than the 3D fighting plane. All right. All right. So that's that full moon, beautiful full moon, actually, as painful as it could be for some. It's breaking you through, getting you ready for your soul contracted destiny, which is going to be happening very much in this month, because we're going to get that beautiful trine to Saturn, Saturn Jupiter, which was squaring a couple times in the last year and a half, causing a lot of blockages of our abundance and feeling like things were going forward, because Saturn Jupiter is trying to restructure our lives into dharmic direction, true dharmic direction. So now we're going to get this Venus opposition of Saturn, where again, Saturn is at that end degree point of untangling knots. This is going to happen on what day is that? The 12th or the 13th, right? I'm sorry, the 13th. It's going to move into Libra, which is going to change your energy. Your whole life is going to change. You're going to feel 1,000 times better. A lot of this conflict, a lot of this struggle that's going on at the beginning of the month is going to be over. steps into some sort of breakthrough and peace and beauty, but I'm jumping ahead. But let's just talk about Venus opposite Saturn. So Venus opposite Saturn is continuing a story where Venus and Saturn conjoined January 20th. So if you look back at that time, you'll see something that occurred with you, and most likely a relationship connection. You can be married or not married, doesn't matter, but there's a progress happening here in clearing karmic patterns. Again, this is all part of the same story, but when Venus opposes Saturn, it's where the truth is seen that this is lasting or not lasting. A relationship, whether there is a true future here or not. And this is where the ones that are not break and the ones that are recommit, go further, even better, even stronger, and ready to take on a true dharmic path. So again, this is conflict potential or perception annihilating, like shifts in perception, seeing the other person's point of view, because you may not be seeing each other's point of views. And in this transit, you are, because Libra is about to move into Venus, where it's about balance, where it's like we find harmony in our differences. That's the challenge, right? So there's and to not be, to turn Venus Mercury is a little bit enemy in love, like Venus Virgo creates enemies. So where do I now make peace where I create enemies in my love experience? So Venus now for the rest of the month is awesome for you, because you're going to have Venus in its own sign, which is in its dignity, which loves to do that. It's in its more intellectual sign. The sun is also there, giving extra vitality to your house, your Venus house, even though the sun, I'm sorry, your Libra house, if it's your ascendant, your first house, your body, you are feeling a little more energized. But remember, the sun is in debilitation in Libra, so perhaps it's a little bit draining of energy for you right now as the sun is going into fall. Um, so that is the Venus opposition Saturn. Then Venus, oh yeah, so Venus is going to make this beautiful harmonic kite with Saturn, which is where the eclipses and the nodes have been, and where we're clearing karma. So some breakthrough, beautiful breakthrough happens after that opposition. Either you free yourself of a karmic situation and you're liberated, or you have a breakthrough of the karmic patterns in your true divine partnership. And there's now a rapid healing, rapid, beautiful flow, balanced, harmonic, good, getting along, loving, seeing the other person's point of view, having empathy with that Saturn in Pisces, understanding each other. It's the energy God wants to see. So that is the beautiful thing now starting to shift for you guys this month. Then we're going to have, now we're going to build this. And now this is where things get fantastic. We're building I forgot something. I keep doing this. On the, let me get to 22 degrees Venus. I forgot this part, where we're going to have a sextile on October 7th, where things do smooth out. There's some smoothing out through the storm of the chaos of the backdrop of the Mercury square to Pluto. And I didn't even talk about that, did I? October 7th, there's a Mercury square Pluto, which is going to be another very intense part of the dramas that play out in this month. But I can't go into it all because it's just a lot. But anyway, this is going to be a very blessed moment. And at the same time, so we're looking at breakthroughs in relationships, conflict resolution, power struggles, breakthroughs. And then when Venus is in its peaceful sign of Libra, peace is re-established in our connections, and we operate in modes that create peace. Through that Pluto square to Mercury, we have a breakthrough that we're hurting each other through our words. And that is all the pain is fueled from the hurt or the action. Hurt people, that thing, remember? All right, so now we're going to look at this water trine from Saturn to Jupiter, where we have a beautiful. Now Saturn and Jupiter are going to trine for like a couple months here. And it's because Jupiter's going to go to retrograde, Saturn's in retrograde. They're going to meet, they're going to be a dance here. So what's happening is that we're getting a gift and the results of the hard work we did with Saturn and Jupiter squaring, like I said earlier. And we did hard work. It was very challenging. We went without dessert, but we got dinner. Saturn always makes sure you get dinner. And now we're really at that point where we have some good growth in this karmic patterning, and we're going to start seeing the riches of our rewards. And for you, so the riches of our rewards, the fruits of our rewards, the rewards of our efforts, the fruits of our efforts, the fruits of the labor. So where am I? The Grand Water Trine. So that's going to be in your 10th house. So these are the work houses. So this is going to be career, long-term, oh no, sorry, that's the 11th. Status changing, blessing in perhaps marriage or divorce, or but it's really positive energy. So it's going to be really good. And Jupiter is going to really shine your calling, your purpose. It's really going to activate your 10th house of dharmic, because Jupiter is about your dharma. So aligning your career, Saturn, Jupiter is career, dharma coming together, right? Saturn, Jupiter conjoined 2020 in the sign of Aquarius, 0 degrees, where we're walking our independent path, living our true charts, being who we truly are. So now we've got this trine to your work houses, stepping into some sort of really powerful role with your divine counterpart, your true person, where you've cleared up a bunch of mess in that early part of the month. And now things look beautiful going forward, blessing you with financial stability for the long term, because Saturn is creating a very stable new foundation for you and creating an abundant an abundant future. So we have to line up with our true dharmic path, which is where our true abundance is in our charts. It's in our life. So this beautiful thing happens here in your workhouses, money, career, job, shifts. Look very blessed, but it's a result of your hard work and struggles you've been on. So that really now takes us to the Libra new moon in your first house. I also have to say Neptune goes back into Pisces, which adds more to this water empathic energy here. Where's Neptune? Did Neptune go back into Pisces here? No, not yet. So here's Neptune going into Pisces. So then we got this really dominant water energy. Oh, sorry, we're in days. Got to go to days. We're in really dominant water energy. There we go. So now we are on the new moon. Let's do the new moon. That's going to be on the 20th. And I'm pretty sure oh no, Neptune is not into Pisces yet. So anyway, that's happening this month. I'll talk about it more next month, but Neptune Pisces is again adding to a lot of the water energy, but that doesn't happen until about the 23rd. So let's get Libra on the ascendant back, you guys. So this full new moon now hits in your first house, where you become a complete new version of yourself, a complete new beginning. If it's your solar return, you're going to have a significant year of radical new beginnings involving most likely joint contracts with your true person or partnerships that are very reliable for you and that bless your career and finances and service, house of service, and your health, by the way. That looks good for health. Um, so so the new moon is a new beginning. It can be in relationships, but there's a new version of you being born now that's more authentic, that's less trying to control your relationship dynamics, that's finding your balance in relationships. So you're this new beginning from a whole new version of you, because you've never been this healthy in a relationship dynamic. So there's a whole new identity is going to be born for you. And Venus is in your first house during this new moon in its dignity. I mean, it's a fantastic new moon. So, okay, Libra, I'm going to leave it there. And do feel free to contact me if you'd like a reading. My website is soullevels.com. And you can email me also if you want to be on my mailing list, where I send these out every month, and a newsletter. And that is Madeleine Parker 111 at gmail.com. And please like and subscribe if you haven't done so. Thank you. Hey, Scorpio, Sun, Moon, Rising. These times must have been rather interesting and challenging for you guys, because you're ruled by Scorpio, and Scorpio in the last week has been squaring Mars, which is your other ruling planet. So you may be coming out of kind of a tough week here. But also Mercury's start is going to be in Scorpio here in a few days, squaring Pluto again coming up. So there's another window of intensity around communications, and we're going to take a look at that here for you. But let's just talk about what happens at the beginning of the month here on the 1st, where Mercury is forming a square to Jupiter in Libra, and it is also going to be perfecting a square with it's opposite Chiron. It's going to be exact opposite Chiron, squaring Jupiter here on the second. So that's going to be a lot of energy of, let's get you in the right house here, of again, painful, potentially painful communication that has to be said, or shall we say, the wounding that this, because when we have oppositions, it usually involves conflict. So there's a wounding in a conflict that is coming up to be aired and seen, and Jupiter expands this, makes it bigger so we can see it, so that you can see the source of this imbalance in a connection, in a relationship, because Mercury is in Libra. Mercury rules the mind, the thoughts, communication. So there's some sort of clearing of a wounding or preventing of communication, or a wounding causing the inability to work through something in connections. So the month is going to doc. Okay, well, something weird's going on. So weird. Okay, so after that sort of first week of the month is challenging, because also, but here's the other thing, is that your ruling planet Mars, other ruling planet Mars, is in very strong dignity right now. It's inside of Scorpio, so it's strong. You stick up for yourself. You have a lot of energy. You're feeling quite motivated and driven, and so you have a lot of power in these dynamics that are happening. You sort of are being tested whether you're in your power, because most of these are power struggles. And I'm going to go with you past the power struggles. Most of you will. Maybe you do fall back into some old sort of power struggle behavior, but with Mars being in its strength, you can pull yourself out of it very well. So the month is challenging as far as the beginning of the month, with that full moon up to the full moon here. Let me get my notes back out. So that full moon is happening on the 6th, which is literally the day that Mercury moves into Scorpio. Well, the day before. Yeah, Mercury moves into Scorpio that day. So that's going to be an interesting full moon for you. And that is happening in your 6th house, in your 6th and in your 12th. The sun is in your 12th. So you're feeling a little bit like hibernating and not really engaging in the community or socializing that much. But this this energy is sort of putting you into a situation that you have to face and resolve, basically, um, in this full moon. And it's we're ending karmic cycles and karmic patterns here, because soon we're going to also have, on this new moon, full moon, we're going to have Venus conjoining South Node a couple days before that. Let me show you. And so this full moon for you guys is being very, very clear, because it's happening in your 6th. Who are your true tribe? Who are your, because you're letting go of connections and people that are not your true tribe, but also letting go of working too hard for your connections, letting go of patterns and behaviors in connections. It's in your 8th house, 11th house. So it might be letting go of people that are really should just be your friend, that you may have gotten in too much connections with. But you're ending a cycle of relating in connections where you have to work so hard and you don't be who you truly are, because the 11th house is not it can be not being who we truly are, distorting ourselves to be in friendships or in groups that are not really supportive to us. So this letting go, you're letting go of connections and situations and people that just aren't that really supportive of you, because with Mars being in its strength right now, you're really tackling you're really in your power here, but it's going to get a little bit challenged. So, but I think you win the challenge, because, or the situation comes out in your favor because of Mars being in its strength. So yeah, so that full moon in Aries in your 6th house could bring to light a source of stress, an addiction that you may have to quit. Can be alcohol, can be sugar, can be just a job that's too stressful for you, or situations that are too stressful for you. So yeah, so you're really releasing a pattern of, I'm sorry, this full moon is showing you where you are trying to push things too hard and work too hard that are causing you to get ill and stressed. So, and to create more balance with your spirit and how you and your work, finding things to fill you up spiritually rather than just being so focused on work all the time. All right, so that's the full moon. Now, after that full moon, we're going to come into a Venus opposition to Saturn, which brings up some sort of journey that Saturn and Venus have been on. Now, Venus is about to move into Libra right before that, which is extremely good, which is going to change the energies of the month completely. But this is in opposition to Saturn, where there's conflict around connections in relationships, around agreeing on something and committing to something. And this is in your fifth and in your 11th and fifth. So yeah, power struggles with friends and connections are, and someone who's a friend that didn't want to commit now faces their problems and commits. That's kind of the energy. A friendship could turn into a very long term because we're moving into divine partnerships for our soul contracts. So it's like Venus opposition Saturn, some sort of resolve over someone not wanting to commit. So after you make this release of that energy of the nodes and Venus, where you really let go of attachment, you really let go of control, you really release all toxic attachment to connections, this true relationship, that the commitment issue comes to surface because you're not attached, and then it looks like commitment is achieved. If you're already in a connection, some sort of conflict in your connection is resolved around some sort of choice that's going to be important, and maybe the other person is reluctant. So something moves forward, but again, with an opposition, you're going to get conflict. So how you work through these conflicts is shows where you are in your development of karma recurring, because Venus now moves in this beautiful into your 12th house, where you may go on a travel trip with your true person. You may meet them abroad. You may meet them in the country, in rural, or you are communicating with them. They're across seas. There's distance. You've got Jupiter in your ninth. Travel could open up here. And so that's gets us into this. Well, let me just get my notes here. So yeah, that's a beautiful energy happening. The month shifts when that Venus goes into Libra. Mars is in its own sign. Libra's in its sign. Jupiter's in its exaltation, and we're building this incredible water trine here with Saturn, Jupiter, where we reap the rewards of our efforts. So let's get you into the right house, Scorpio. And so this big water trine is going to hit in your relationship, in your Dharma houses, first, ninth, and fifth. So you're really getting support. So if you're not in your Dharma, you may not feel as much of this benefit, but if you are, you're feeling really vitalized, really motivated. Mars in your first house, taking things forward, really inspired, excited about new ventures, new entrepreneurial ventures, most likely involving that person where Venus opposed Saturn in that fifth. So there's beautiful energies coming in with this new moon. Plus, we're going to have that new moon in the 12th house. So there's a really good chance you take on some sort of adventure or dharmic contracted project with your person, or you decide to travel together. Your fifth house is creative writing. You could get pregnant, have a child with this person. This is a great, great water trine for you. Blessings in good luck, very good luck when it hits that first to the ninth house. It's called a trikone. It's like a dharma trikone. Blessings on your dharmic path become very clear. The universe really helps you onto it. You've earned this. It's going to feel like it just landed in your lap, but you did earn it. So then this takes us to the new moon Libra in your 12th house on the 22nd. And so this is potentially traveling or going, shall we say, into a rural country area with your person, like honeymooning, time together. But again, this is a new moon, so we're really starting a new chapter, potentially in a relationship or with your current relationship, with a sort of cleared slate, because we're really going through a lot at the beginning of that month, clearing that slate of karmic cycling where Mars is your ruling planet, and you're learning how to not be how to communicate better in your connections, or how to really align with your right connections. Anyway, we're all learning that. Um, so this is a really nice month for you, Scorpio. I'm going to leave it there. Um, you're being challenged not to get into too intensity combat zone with those every time your ruling planets create squares. And it can just be even in your head, because I know some really passive, calm Scorpios that they're having a combat within them with people. So you're going to want to sort of heal that energy and then allow that trine to take you into some beautiful dharmic path involving travel, creative writing, media projects, or having a child, and you becoming really bold and confident about who you are. All right. If you would like to have a personal reading, you can go to my website, soullevels.com. If you want to be on my mailing list or to contact me, go to Madeleine Parker111 at gmail.com. And if you haven't, please like and subscribe. Thank you. Namaste. Hey, Sagittarius, Sun, Moon, Rising. The month starts out with your ruling planet squaring Chiron and Mercury opposing it. Here we go. If there we are on the third day of the month is when it exacts. And so we've got that Mercury opposite Chiron squaring your eighth house. So something is going on right now with your tribe, with social media, with friends. That is conflict and very challenging, and testing your devotion to your dharma, your there's a lot of fears coming up in these energies, and testing your, shall we say, faith in a project that is dharmic, or finances, some sort of fear around some kind of finances show up, joint resources can show up. But this is going to be a tension energy for the month beginning for you guys. Jupiter being involved in this, you're learning how to have inner conviction around your dharma, around your purpose, around your calling, and stepping into the bold confidence of who you're here to be. Jupiter is your ruling planet. Sagittarius are always going to be on a dharmic path, adventure, seeking higher consciousness, higher knowledge, wanderers, seekers. So now we've got some insecurities and conflicts in relationships, because this is an Aries Libra dynamic, and this is involving your friendships and your social media and your tribe. So there's conflicts involved, and communication, and you're learning how to balance friends with your tribe, and then your dharma, your path, and also deep fears of financial loss. Um, so anyway, that's not an easy time necessarily for a lot of Sagittarians, but hang in there. This full moon, Aries in your fifth house, brings you who your true connections are, knowing who your true supportive friends are. And you've got the South Node Venus coming in here on this full moon, conjoining in your 10th, where you're really releasing ego-based friendships that you made just to create a stronger career, or just to create a upgrade, financial upgrade, or basically this is releasing old patterns that just aren't working for you in connections, in work related areas, but also perhaps if you're in a relationship that's not right, you do release it. Could be a relationship you met at work, you let it go because it isn't really your long-term family that you want to build a family with or something. But Sagittarians are going through a letting go of controlling their career through making friendships and connections that aren't necessarily supportive. And then with that full moon there in the fifth house, you're seeing who is and who to connect with. Again, even a romantic relationship, any kind of a contract, that any person you sign a contract with that you see is devoted to, that is supportive. Now you could also have a baby. That's kind of a soul contract. But again, soul contract projects with people that you're clearing your slate in careers so that you can start your true calling, people that are truly supportive, and your true tribe showing up here. So conflicts arise that bring that help you see that. So then we're going to have Mercury is going to move into, on this full moon, 14 degrees in your 11th house, which also does, I'm sorry, in your fifth house, which does also potentially bring you new friends. But with that new moon in your 11th house at the end of the month, definitely meet new tribes, new supportive goals or goals that you've long-term gains are starting to show up through tribe, people that you're meeting, perhaps somebody that you meet on this full moon, or you know somebody is your true, you see true friendship in that full moon Aries, and then you in the new moon, you collaborate with them on a venture, humanitarian effort with the new moon in your 11th, with connections with a clean slate where you're not you've clear you know that these people like you thick and thin and for who you really are. You don't have to be perfect for it. That's the other thing about Virgo South Nodes, letting go of being perfect for love or connections or for things to work in relationships. So yeah, so we got that full moon Aries. Then we're going to get Venus opposite Saturn, which is going to be when Venus moves into, well, it's actually opposite Saturn here before it moves into Libra October 12th, where again, you see who is worthy of devotion to in relationship and connections and long-term contract agreements, and you let go of people that are not they're oppositional to you. So conflicts can arise in this with your divine partner or your true love. You can end relationships in these energies. Don't forget South Node Venus ending a relationship. They're not headed the same way you are energies, but with the opposition to Saturn, you're going to see what is a long-term connections, partnerships, and you're challenging that, and it shows that it's strong or that it's weak. And then Venus goes into your 11th house where it's really in its dignity, where you're meeting lots of new people or new friends come in. It's social, you're getting out and around. Um, and then, so, so yeah, so let me just get to this. Oh, Venus sextiles Jupiter, darn it. I always forget that. Let me jump back. Venus is sextiling Jupiter at the beginning of the month here, also giving you a lot of blessings in your finances and, Venus, Jupiter. There we go. Career and finances. So there's some sort of nice ease of breakthrough through that conflict or through that problem with that Jupiter. So there's some sort of nice support that helps you through this involving finances and work. Um, but let me get back to, and that's also a relationship harmonic. People communicate. If you're separate, you could be coming together in those energies. So now we're going to move into we got Venus coming in, making that beautiful kite formation to your fifth house. So and then it's that new moon is going to be hitting at 27 degrees of Libra, where you really do initiate this beautiful new long-term project involving a collaborative group. It's really fun energy, actually, as soon as we get Venus into Libra. That's going to be really positive, very financially lucrative and abundant, because now we're building this water trine with Saturn, which is really powerful here. Saturn is going to trine Jupiter, your ruling planet, for a long time. So the challenges you've been in the last year and a half with this square to Jupiter, the blocks, the struggle, the feeling like nothing's moving, working, is now changing to everything feeling like it's going and working. It's blessing your finances, blessing your family, it's your water houses, it's spiritual breakthrough, having faith, feeling excited about an abundant path, joint resources, abundance, money coming in. There could be money coming through property, real estate, sales working out very well, or a loan working out very well. Travel can very much be a part of this story. Jupiter always loves to travel. It's trining Mars, Mercury in your 12th house, plans to travel, maybe to put your house on the market, sell it, go travel. Joint resources, putting your resource together with someone to buy a house, sell a house, enables you then to move, relocate to the country or a different country, moving. A lot of blessings here involving money, boosts of your income, feeling financially solvent enough to make movement in your relocate where you're living. And so that's pretty much it in a nutshell for you guys. This month you're going to be feeling a lot of clarity, and the new dharmic path that you're starting, the new chapter and era that's beginning in February when Saturn moves direct. Saturn moves direct in November, but when it moves back into Aries, where we really launch this new era. So from now until then, you're going to start to see the outline of the new life, the new dharmic, the new path that's opening up for you, Sagittarius. All right, a very lucky month for you when your planet, ruling planet, trine Saturn. You have seeing long-term positive results of the efforts that you've put in to be on your dharmic path, and then you see a stability in your future. All right, if you would like a reading, feel free to email me, or go to my website, soullevels.com, or email me, MadelaineParker111 @gmail.com, if you would like to be on my mailing list where I send out a monthly email. Please like and subscribe if you haven't. Have a wonderful month. Namaste. All right, Capricorn, Sun, Moon, Rising. The month starts out with Mercury building a square to Chiron and Jupiter. Actually, it's opposing. Mercury is going to be opposing Chiron and making a square to Jupiter. And that's going to happen in your 10th, in your 7th, and in your, where is that? Third, fourth. So this is a period where there could be tensions involving partnerships and mother home situations and communication, self versus the other, together versus alone energies, because it's happening in the Aries Libra axis. So this involves some sort of harmonic communication, or shall we say, overcoming conflicts that have been coming from you, triggered place, causing problems in relationships. So in other words, the wounding, Jupiter is going to show the wounding, expand the wounding, which through communication, it shows that you have a wounding, and Jupiter expands it and sort of exaggerates it so you see it, so that we clear it, so that you find a balance in your relationship connections where you aren't giving either too much, or you're learning how to give and take in a balance where agreements are fair and you're not losing something out of that agreement. But basically, this is a challenging energy, but ultimately it puts you into the right energies for initiating this big new cycle coming in, where you're really going to start aligning with true divine long-term connections and partnerships. So it could be mother related, because you've got Chiron in your fourth, so you're healing through conflicts and how not to. Basically, you're healing through the conflict and learning how to resolve the conflict. So that's the beginning of the month, which can be kind of tricky and difficult, especially since it's in your Kendra houses, which means it can really shift your life, because the Venus and the South Node conjoining on further into the month here on the 4th is happening, where, because Libra rules your 10th house, where you're letting go of trying to control situations, trying to have an ego, a manipulative energy around connections, and perhaps even letting go of a relationship, and which will open you up for a new relationship here when Libra moves into that 10th. Because Libra moving into the 10th is going to join in, there's going to be a new moon there, and that can, it's a Saturn house. It's potentially for a relationship working, starting and initiating, if you're not in one, where you join in a joint collaborative venture for the long term. We're lining up for this long new 29-year cycle. So we're letting go of relationships and patterns and habits that create ego connections that create karmic cycles. And also, you're letting go of people who just don't see things the way you do, letting go of people who just, you're letting go of beliefs also that create division in your connections and conflicts around beliefs, but also letting go of people who are not in alignment with your higher beliefs, your higher consciousness ideals. So now we get into this full moon in Aries in your 4th house. So now you're clearing some sort of wounding, ancestral wounding from mother pattern, and it throws you into imbalances in relationships. So now you're healing that with this full moon. You're seeing your imbalance, how you become, and how it sources from your mother, and how it causes imbalances in your connections. So you're healing that. It becomes very clear. And so there's a very good chance that there's a new beginning where you move, change homes, or you also become very clear as to where your new family is, what is your true family, and also this could be a revealing of that wounding source, which now enables you to heal it and enables you to be more empowered in your Libras energy, where you're not creating conflict in your relationships through power struggles or through belief misalignments. So that's that full moon in Aries, new living situation potentially. Now we also have Venus opposing Saturn coming in here after that full moon, which again carries the tone or the theme of commitment versus, shall we say, independence. And this is a theme that has been happening with Saturn and Venus for the last year, when Venus in January was conjoining Saturn on the 20th. So there's a theme running here between Saturn and Venus where we're finding a committed, devoted relationship. Even if you're in your committed, devoted relationship, you're ending karmic cycles in those connections, and you're becoming more devoted and more joint soul contracted, or taking on projects together. You're learning to get on and getting closer even better, or you're releasing relationships that are ego based and stepping into a true divine partnership that really aligns and that really feels strongly aligned, because soon you're going to have. I also want to talk about Mercury goes into Scorpio. I forgot to mention that at that other full moon, which can be quite intense because Mercury squares Pluto. So just heads up on that. But Venus moving into your 10th house on the 13th. That's that Mercury Scorpio squaring Pluto can really be a conflict energy. Just as a heads up, which can actually terminate a connection or um, end an imbalance in the connection. Okay. So now we're looking at the Venus creating this beautiful trine to your 4th house, which is career, beautiful boost in your career, perhaps meeting someone in your workspace. If you're already with your person, joining in a soul contract adventure project together that puts you guys in the limelight together. Power couple energy, or it's a new contract, but it's very benefic, good energy, makes a beautiful air trine with Uranus and Pluto, and it really is part of the good half of the month opens up here, and boosts in employment, boosts in money, a lot of good things there. Venus in your 10th. Now we're going to go to the water trine that's starting to build here at Jupiter. Here we are, October 20th. We're going to have this beautiful trine from your 7th house to your 11th house. So you could really meet a true love connection online, or communication, because of relationship. That's 7th house is a relationship, 3rd house is relationship, 11th house is connections. It's the group, your relationship, and then the people that are around you. So this is like a lot of good expansion. You meet a lot of people. Your social media kind of expands. You get new tribes, new support from tribes, long-term goals attained, or you see the shape of a new destiny that's exciting and really benefit. You see a long-term stable career or business opportunity, and with a joint soul contract with a person or partners. Let's say you're a musician. This is the stage. You get an opportunity to perform on stage with your bandmates. And so now and this is stuff you wrote, 3rd house, you're writing your own media, or it's promoting your media site really, really well. So this is a really nice energy, and Saturn, your ruling planet, is in on this trine, which means it is long-term blessings. And by the way, this is a result of the hard work that you've done with the Jupiter square Saturn, which you would have felt, which would have blocked a lot of abundance and feeling like things were flowing in your life in the last year and a half during certain periods. Now through that struggle and that hard work that it put you through, you're now seeing some beautiful rewards through connections and relationships, and the people that you were in business with that are around you on a day-to-day. So that water trine is fantastic. Now Saturn and Jupiter are going to trine for a long period, because your ruling planet, Jupiter's going to go in retrograde. So is Saturn going to be in retrograde? So we are looking at connections from the past coming in here too. Your divine connection could show up very much in this energy here. So then that leads me to the last thing, which is a new moon in your 10th house with Venus there in its dignity, which means basically you're looking at a new beginning in a career. This could be just a new relationship that you get married. This is commitment, long-term, devoted partnership agreements and collaborative, creative career objectives that are very beautiful, aesthetic, creative, romantic energies, intellectual, intelligent, Libra, Aries, I mean, Libra, Venus in your 10th house. So we're looking at a beautiful boost in your 10th house this month with your career, which then does actually will show up in the finances. Venus is very much about finances. So you are looking at a nice financial boost here at the end, after the second half, as soon as Venus goes into your 10th house. All right. If you would like a personal reading, feel free to contact me through my website, soullevels.com. Or if you would like to be placed on my email list or have any other questions, feel free to email me, madelaine.parker111@gmail.com. And please like and subscribe if you haven't. Have a wonderful month. Namaste. Hey, Aquarius, Sun, Moon, Rising. This month is going to be very interesting for you guys because you're going to have your ruling planet trining Jupiter and involved in this beautiful grand water trine. So your Capricorns and your Aquarians are going to get a lot of benefits from having gone through some hard times and transits in the last year and a half when Saturn, your ruling planet, was squaring Jupiter, which would have blocked your abundance, but it was doing so that you would restructure your life to alignment with your true Dharma. So it would have had you dissolve old structures that are not part of your life and then forced into focusing and devoting to a new structure start in some area. Most likely Saturn transiting your second house would be in finance. So in other words, you're restructuring your finances, and then Venus, Saturn, your ruling planet, is going to go into your third house in February when it's going to be moving very, very quickly, and things are going to be moving. You're going to be feeling this sort of rapid movement towards this new destiny that's initiating. It's a new 29-year cycle in your ruling planet. So you're definitely being prepared for this new beginning happening in February, where you really are in your new chapter. So from now until February, Jupiter is trining your ruling planet Saturn, giving you encouragement and blessings on your dharmic path so that you continue on your dharmic path. In other words, it's feeding that destiny for you, enabling you to go in that direction. We're going to look more at that in the water trine that's coming up. But so right now, the month begins with Mercury in opposition to Chiron, squaring Jupiter in your sixth house. So this is your ninth, sixth, and third house. So there are some stresses and anxious, nervous, I would say, struggles between a relationship in beliefs and opinions and communication. And there's you got Chiron there in your third house where you're learning to not express in anger from a wounded place. Everybody's on this journey with Aries, Chiron, where we're trying to learn how to operate in ways that are not triggering conflict and aggression, and we're healing that urge to do so when we're triggered so that we balance. So some of this might get tested with information, communication, conflict, disagreements, where you might get pulled out of that hard work you've done to sort of find your center and not react, to be reactive, but it depends on your chart how strong this transit's going to play out. But ultimately, Jupiter is in your sixth house, trying to help you align with your true dharmic path of service. And it most likely involves other connections. So you're really learning how to balance in that Venus Libra axis of me versus togetherness, aloneness versus togetherness, me versus you, relationship dynamics and contracts where it's balanced agreements, and learning how to balance that better for us because this full moon hitting in your third house. Let's get to this. So before the full moon hits that third house, we're going to have a Venus conjoining the South Node in your eighth house. So there could be a termination of a relationship if it is not your true relationship, termination of toxic attachment and addiction to relationships or toxic addictions to things that please you in general, a toxic addiction to or a toxic way of operating, overthinking, stress, controlling, ego attached connections and relationships, or around money and your finances, and maybe conflicts in your connections around money and finances. Because I think one of the leading causes of divorce is conflict in money, apparently, and sex, which is the eighth house. So some sort of pattern in that intimate house of money, relationships, sex is released. Somebody could have a sex addiction here and you're letting go of a sex addiction, or you're letting go of a toxic sexual connection, or being in connections that are just physical, that aren't really soulfully aligned. And then if you're in your true connection, letting go of anger and criticism and fears about your own fears about income and money, and playing that out and projecting it onto your partner. So you're letting go of creating stress and tension in your finances with your partner. You're starting to look for more harmonic flow, spiritual, higher, relaxed energies in your finances with Saturn there, clearing karmic fear-based attachments to finances and money. And there's a relationship connection to that sixth house because it's the second house because it's a Venus house. All right, so that leads us to the full moon. So that full moon, oh yeah, don't forget Mercury is going to go into your 10th house again, where some sort of conflict occurs, squaring Pluto. So, you could quit a career. Pluto's in your first house, empowering you, transforming you into the empowered leaders that the Aquarius are going to be here soon. Now with Mercury squaring that, with Chiron in this story, your feelings of, well, Mars is in that 10th house, giving you a lot of confidence to be initiative and take initiatives in your careers. But Mercury squaring Pluto there really, really scares you. Like you're really afraid that you're not good enough. You don't have the, you're not confident. Mercury squaring Pluto there is going to trigger you to feel like you're a what do you call it, a phony or something, an imposter. But you're going to discover that you're not, because you're going to have to stick up for yourself. Whatever's going on there triggers some deep fears in you about whether you're capable in that 10th house. But you are. That's what this is happening for, is to transform you into believing into yourself. Okay, so that takes us, we've done the full moon there. Oh, did we do the full moon? No, we're on the full moon in your third house, where you become aware of what you really want to do, what media project you want, that you want to start a media project, that you want to get involved in some sort of collaborative effort, a new business. You start a website, you decide you're going to sell something online that you really believe in, that's going to help humanity. Because remember, these energies are aligning us with our Dharma, which is what we're here to do, to help humanity, because we're starting this big new cycle here in your third house when Saturn goes there in February, and Saturn's going to move very quickly. So a media project could take a lot of traction and start to go very forward, very strong. Um, and you've got water over your sixth house, so the water trine is going to move your sixth house, which is of service. So you are motivated here with the sun in your ninth to enlighten humanity in some way through media projects, writing, um, blogs, social media, or speaking, communicating uh, to people in your area, like public speaking. So that full moon shows you clarity on what that is that you want to devote to in this next 29-year cycle. This is going to be very much related to that, because Saturn's going to meet this point here of this full moon in about a year and a half. And so now we're going to really see that this full moon, the clarity that it gave you to devote yourself to something, starts to really it bear big fruit here. Because don't forget, Jupiter is now building a trine to Saturn, showing you that what your hard work and struggles are going to start bearing nice fruits, and you're going to start to see the shape of your new life taking a nice form, or you're going to start to see the form of your new life take shape. So now that takes us to the full moon, which, by the way, could be stressful with Mercury and Scorpio and Mars there. This is an intense full moon, potentially. Depends on your own chart, of course, how it's hit. But be aware that this could bring up like explosive arguments and such, not in your connections, in relationships. That's for everybody. So moving along, I'm trying to keep these shorter. So I'm going to go into more details about these full moons and things on my YouTube. So stay tuned. So now we're going through that Venus opposition of Saturn, where some kind of conflict around money, finances, joint resources could flare up, causing issues in your relationships and your connections. And Mercury squaring the Pluto is out of the square, but the issues that hit when that Mercury square now sort of become intense, and now there's this sort of do or die energy, like do we commit to this? Do we, the relationship could terminate during these energies, or the fear of the pain or the issues this relationship triggers in you are now brought to the surface and resolved once and for all for the long-term stability of the connection. So it's going to show up something, some sort of conflict or some sort of power struggle in the connection around finances or sex, intimacy, that are triggering up. So they're going to come up for resolve so that you can either devote to this connection for the next 29 years, or it needs to terminate if it's not your true destined connection. Like you evaluate whether you both want to go forward in these times. So again, if you're in the right relationship, you will go forward. If you're not, it will dissolve. So now this takes us to Venus moving into your ninth house. Wow. So if you're single in this energy, you could meet your person. This can be a second, later in life partner. You could start a project. If you're a lawyer with your Aquarius, a lot of lawyers are Aquarius rising. They have a lot of planets in their ninth house. A really strong client comes in, and you have a really strong ability to win a case or a really strong case, and that will then give you a real boost in your notoriety. You become recognized more, you're seen, a lot of good luck there because it's trining your ascendant. So and it's trining Pluto there. So good money. This is a good money transit. Could also bring travel, opportunities, clients, if you're a lawyer, um, financial blessings. It's very good luck. So there's could be a nice boost in your finances. A bonus comes in. But this is very good news around the October 13th period. I forgot to talk about the Saturn no, wait, that's Jupiter sextiling Venus on the early of the month, which will happen in your eighth and in your sixth. So I don't want to jump back and forth, but there is a good transit at the beginning of the month, around your sixth and your eighth. So there are some breakthroughs and successful solutions during that conflict period that I talked about. I just wanted to add that in. But anyway, Venus in its dignity here in your ninth house brings good luck in finances, travel, or you decide to teach or take a course or expand your knowledge. The most important thing, the best thing you can do for yourself in life is expand your knowledge. So take on a project with a divine mate. You could travel and you meet your person if you're single. But this is a very blessed energy. So super good luck for Aquarius with Venus in its dignity in your ninth house. Then we're going to have so this takes us to the grand water trine where Saturn, your ruling planet, is going to trine Jupiter here. And that's going to last for a long time because Jupiter is going to go in retrograde next month. So we're looking at least 2 months of this trine, which is going to bring you a lot of good stuff in your water houses, which is, let's get to the day of the trine here. I'm just going to go ahead then. That you're going to feel the trine from about the 18th because Mars and here, see, let's go to the 18th. The 18th, Jupiter starts to form a trine to Saturn in your second house. So some service project, a project of high service or work endeavor really starts to show some positive money support coming in there. And this looks like blessing you financially for a long time. And this is an area of service that is your dharma. It is connected to what you're supposed to do. And you're really seeing the results of some of the struggles that you've been through with Saturn square Jupiter. So now it's like things are effortlessly sort of falling into place and it's sort of surprising. And that's going to start around October 18th. And then we're going to have the big water trine where Mars, Mercury, and Jupiter are all hitting Saturn at about 25 degrees here. Um, well, that's here. We're close enough. Um, October, basically from the 20th until there's the trine. We're going to feel the trine, I think, as soon as October 21st. So this is going to impact your workhouses. So this is powerful, good money, new dharmic direction, liberation, feeling liberated from some sort of entrapped situation financially that just your work is now going to feel like a flow blessed upgrade into something that feels very dharmic and very effortless. And income increase with that Saturn in retrograde in your second house, just really establishing a long-term new advance or slow growth. Things that happen fast don't last. So this is slow growth, restabling of your finances to really last a long time, trining these other water houses. So there's this flow into this new mission, into this new project that elevates your career, elevates your finances, puts you in a real sense of service, really expanding your calling, feeling really in alignment with these energies. They're beautiful. Venus in its in its dignity in your ninth house, bringing you incredible luck, possibly through travel, with Mars in dignity in your 10th house, giving you motivation, drive, and initiative drive to do this and to put some passion into it. And you've got the strength and the confidence with that Mars. I like Mars, Scorpio. And then Saturn in retrograde in your second, where you're dissolving old ways that you've been making money that are no longer a part of your new destiny, this long-term 29-year chapter that's about to initiate February. Um, so then that takes us to the new moon Libra in your ninth house, perhaps new opportunities in writing, teaching, learning, involving contracted partners, agreements with people, or a new client for a law lawyer, a new opportunity to travel with your divine mate, or again, a relationship you meet traveling with a love, you meet a new love. There might be another nationality to you. You meet your true love in these energies. New moon Libra in your ninth. Or you could meet them through friends that you have that are abroad, that other friends that are other cultures. What else can you have there? Traveling again, like I say, with a love, honeymoon type of vacation, pink bubble period with your love. Um, so that is a new moon there, starting some sort of. You could be moving to another country with your true person, with a divine counterpart, um, in these energies. So it depends on your chart again, but this is very auspicious for you, Aquarius. Other than the first part of the month where before Venus moves into um, Libra, it's a little bit shaky and intense, Mercury square Pluto, and around your career and finances and things. But with this new moon in Libra, you're initiating a new path that feels liberating and really in alignment with your Dharma, because that's a Dharma house. All right, sorry, Aquarius, have a wonderful month. If you would like a reading, feel free to book with me on soulevels.com. Email me at madeleineparker111@gmail.com to be put on my mailing list. And please like and subscribe if you haven't. Have a wonderful month. All right, Pisces, Sun, Moon, Rising. This is going to be a nice month for you guys because you're going to feel the benefits of the Saturn Jupiter trine because your ruling planet is Jupiter. So in the last year and a half, there have been a couple of squares from Jupiter to Saturn, which would have given you a tough time. It would have blocked some of your abundance. It would have made sure you had dinner, but it may not have given you much in the way of dessert. So Saturn squaring Jupiter would have had you work very, very hard and be very disciplined about something. And now you're going to start seeing the results of that in these next couple of months because your ruling planet is going to go retrograde and so is Saturn. So there's a dance between these two big, heavy planets, big, heavy hitters in our charts that are really changing and redirecting you through this trine into your positive dharmic path that hard work that things in that path appeared to be blocked. So in other words, a path you were on following your dharmic dream felt blocked, felt like it couldn't work out, like it was unsuccessful. So you had to really go back and work hard around it. And now you're going to see that that is changed and that this is possible. Success is there. Long-term financial stability is in your future here. And you're going to feel very abundant in your, shall we say, path. You're going to feel like you're on the right path. Let's put it that way. And you can see the fruits of your struggles, the labor, the fruits of your labor. Because we're going to have a beautiful big water trine and it's going to trine your first house. But I'm going to get to that. Saturn is in your first house. So you're becoming extremely mature. You've grown up a lot and you're taking on more responsibilities. So you're really going to get some nice, beautiful gifts from this trine. But let's start with the beginning of the month with Mercury squaring your ruling planet opposite Chiron. So your ruling planet is squaring Chiron, where you're overcoming insecurities and fears about being your true self and stepping into your true dharmic path, because the water houses in for Pisces are hitting in your dharmic path. So you're really stepping into embracing your true calling. You're ruled by Jupiter. You really want to be on your adventurous dharmic path. And so now with this square to Jupiter, Mercury, some kind of conflict comes up in relationships. This is hitting in your second and eighth house. So money insecurities, money fears coming in where you don't really believe in yourself financially, perhaps, or you aren't really valuing yourself in some way. Saturn wants this, there's going to be a full moon in your second house that really shows that you haven't seen the full value of who you are. Remember, this having self-value is the highest form of wealth because it resonates in throughout your life. So you're really going to sort of, with Chiron there, you're really developing higher self-esteem, believing in yourself more, seeing your value. And so the beginning of the month, there could be problems around finances and in your relationship versus debt, conflicts in money, which goes to that Jupiter in your fifth house with friends, and which really has you, shall we say, take on the fears and become more responsible about your finances. And you sort of change that about yourself and you see your value because that full moon is going to be there. So you really heal this sort of, there's the full moon coming in, 14 degrees. So you really see the importance of valuing yourself more and charging more money for what you do, and these woundings, Jupiter showing you to really get over this lower self-esteem energy that is impacting your income. So now we're going to move on to Venus. Venus is going to be in Virgo, conjoining the South Node in your seventh house. So you're either going to be letting go of a relationship that isn't the right one for you. You've had eclipses there all year. So if you're in the wrong relationship, this could finally now come down, or you're letting go of a codependent dynamic and pattern and habit in your connections. You're really learning how to release, let go of control. That full moon in your second house is also a relationship house. So is the eighth house. So there could be some sort of with don't forget Mercury is going to go into Scorpio here on that full moon, where there could be some real triggering going on around infidelity or intimacy or financial debt, the relationship sort of truths coming up that could really rock the boat in your relationship, which could cause you to release that relationship with this North Node, with Venus South Node. So this could be a period where you really break a relationship up over financial fights or intimacy, loyalty, things like that. Venus is sextiling Jupiter, your ruling planet. So there is, if you're in the right relationship, things work out. If you're in the wrong relationship, it flows into dissolve state, which is good because you're clearing a karmic cycle that you want to pull out of anyway, where you're in relationships where you're not valued or where you have to work too hard for them to get them to appreciate you. They might be criticizing you a lot because Virgo in your seventh, that could happen. But with that Jupiter sextiling Venus, good things can come in with if you're single, a new relationship comes in. If you're ending a relationship, um, again, a new connection can start to evolve, and that might also be the reason this other relationship collapses if you're not in the right one. If you're in the right one, a resolve of the conflict flows into your connection. So then that brings us to Saturn opposite Venus, where again, the question of commitment is going to show up. How far is this relationship going to go? This connection going to go? Are you devoted to resolving the struggles, or do you need to part ways? But this is a big turning point in your connections. and how long-term are they and stable are they? You want to figure that out because we're entering a new 29-year cycle with Saturn uh, in your first house. So as soon as it goes in February into your second house, you're really initiating a big new chapter in your income and how you make money. So your self-esteem is going to reflect in that. So the universe is really building your confidence up here with that Jupiter square Chiron. Um, so we are seeing an improvement in your finances as you evolve more and more mature and take on more responsibilities and believe in yourself more. But anyway, the Venus opposite Saturn can bring more conflict in your connections, which again can either make or break it, depending on whether you're in your right connection or not. So, and the full moon will reveal some possible issues that can bring a conflict that could break the relationship, or it brings a conflict and a truth, or like, for instance, financial, let's say your person has a debt that you didn't know, but the Venus sextile Jupiter brings you resolve in your, if it's the long-term connection. All right, so now let's go to, we did the Venus opposite Saturn. Now we're going to look at Venus goes into Libra, into your eighth house. So we're seeing a nice things going on in intimacy. If you're in a new connection, it becomes physical. If it also, or you could bring your joint resources together. If you're in your long-term connection, you're in the right connection, you share resources and you are going to invest your money together to either move, buy a new property, or get a loan, or just pull your resources together to afford more rent, because Venus is going to make a beautiful air trine to your fourth house where you may suddenly move. You're on a sudden surprising changes. And so let's go ahead. Don't forget Mercury squares Pluto. I think I talked about that, but if I didn't, go back to the introduction. But that's another intense trigger issue in connections that can happen where we're in conflict in communication over perhaps um, fears, but you don't know if they're overly unrealistic or if they're real. That kind of a conflict, to sort of sort that out, because Venus is trying to teach. With Venus is going to be trining Pluto when it goes into Libra, so we're learning how to resolve conflicts and find peace in our wounded state with that Chiron involved. Okay, so now we're moving into the grand water trine in your first house with really blessed energies. The fifth house, are you kidding me? Fifth house is a Lakshmi house, a house of luxury, forming the Saturn in your first house. So the results of your hard work and being responsible and taking on working really, really hard, you're going to get this really lucky stuff happening for you with this big water trine in your ninth. Really Kendra, what do you, no, we call it they call it a dharmic tricone of blessings in your fifth house of luxury. You could either start a family, have a child, but some kind of, which activates your luxury house. This is really good. This is a Dharma house, so this brings you good luck and good abundance, because Jupiter, your ruling planet, is in a really abundant sign. So it can make children and more create, or so it's the fifth house, which is something out of nothing. You could create a child or a new collaborative creative venture that can promote travel, that really gives you more, shall we say, notoriety. That full moon in your second house showing you that you need to have more confidence in yourself and you're going to increase your income that way. Well, now this trine hits and you start to get more recognition, notoriety, public for your efforts. And now you see the income as a result of that. It's going to give it a boost. So that's the beautiful, blessed water trine in all your three water houses, which are hitting in your Dharma houses, which is about your what really fills your cup, what makes you really happy. It's your best houses because you're Pisces and you're ruled by Jupiter, so you're very dharmic centric. So now this leads us to the new moon Libra, in your eighth house. So that's going to really fix some of that stress that you had at the beginning of the month involving relationships and finances. So the new moon in your eighth house can be a new relationship, and a new physical, a relationship with it turns into a physical, intimate level relationship, more committed. Um, Eighth house can be that again, new ventures involving joint resources. You decide to invest in a stock market type of a thing, and Venus Libra there is really good energy. It would be good to do that right at the beginning of the month, actually, right when Venus trines that Uranus. You could make a lot of money. Venus trining Pluto, it's really good. And then when Venus is sextiling Jupiter, that could be another good time. But Venus in your eighth house brings nice resolves to financial stresses, struggles. I would say it's a financial gain for you, depending on how it hits your chart. But the new moon there brings new opportunities to either end a debt, co-collaborate in your resources, get funding for some kind of a project. Um, if you're like a writer, you could get a advance. So basically, again, we're in a new relationship and things are just intimate and it's very in a pink bubble phase where it's sort of starting its physical side to it. But what else could I say about that? Because Aries, Libra, we're starting this new chapter. So if this is a new relationship, it will evolve into a very stable relationship. So anything that really happens around these big trines are really indicative of things that are going to last in the long term. So anything that shows up during these big trines, involving relationships, having children, collaborative creative ventures, um, travel, teaching, what else? Ninth house. You deciding to go to school and educate yourself, to know more so that you can then become more qualified for something. But anyway, basically, this is long-term blessings that show you that the new shape that your life is shaping, the new shape of your life that's starting to unfold. And so Jup Saturn, I mean, Pisces people are going to be super blessed because your ruling planet being in its exaltation, and then Neptune, your other ruling planet, will go back into Pisces in your first house in the 25th. So we've got a lot of stuff happening in your first house, really having you cement and internally integrate a lot of the lessons you've learned while Saturn was in your first house, where you've restructured and become more someone who can take on more responsibilities, and you're really releasing a karmic loop where you don't treat yourself well or that you don't value yourself. So there's a lot of maturing happening for Pisces here, and your new dharmic path is starting to take shape, and it looks extremely auspicious and abundant for the long term because Saturn is trining your first house. So really good things in store for you, Pisces, this month. All right. If you would like a reading, do feel free to contact me, email me, a book on my website, soullevels.com, or contacting me with email if you want to be on my mailing list, MadelaineParker111@gmail.com. All right, please like and subscribe if you haven't. Have a wonderful month. Namaste.